Hey guys, tonight we step back into a snow-dusted corner of Detroit, where a boy in worn shoes follows close behind his father's laundry cart. The streets are slushed with gray and ice, and the wind hisses between cold brick buildings. But young Mo Dalitz doesn't flinch. He's learning the kind of math that doesn't get taught in schools. How many shirts you can press in a day, how to nod just right at the right face, how to carry silence in your pocket like change. The buildings loom over him, silent as ledgers, and the steam from laundry pipes curls like secrets into the morning air. He's just a kid, but already watching. Every coin exchanged, every subtle gesture between his father and a shopkeeper, every debt forgiven not out of kindness, but calculation. You can hear the scrape of his boots on frost as he keeps pace. Detroit's tough, and so is the lesson. Make yourself useful. Stay just quiet enough, and always know who needs something cleaned. You probably won't survive this world. Not unless you're part accountant, part ghost, and part poker face. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from a quiet place tonight, drop your location and local time in the comments, just so I know where the whispers reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Mo Dalitz is born in Boston, but the ink on his birth certificate barely dries before his family packs up for Detroit. His father, Barney, works as a laundryman, first in New England, then in the bustling, smoky corridors of Motor City. It's not a glamorous trade, but it's consistent. Shirts come in wrinkled and stained. They leave crisp and folded. Mo watches his father the way other boys watch magicians. Each motion precise, like a sleight of hand. And maybe that's what it is, in its own way. The first illusion. Making something unpresentable look presentable again. As a teenager, Mo works alongside him, pressing collars, hauling wet canvas sacks, learning how to read people based on the way they drop off their clothes. The guy who asks for starch on everything, probably trying to impress a boss. The woman who avoids eye contact when picking up her husband's shirts. Maybe there's more to that story. This is Mo's education: fabric, suspicion, and customer service with a raised eyebrow. Detroit in the 1910s is a city of noise and promise. The auto industry is roaring to life. Henry Ford's factories aren't just building cars. They're building a new kind of economy. But for immigrant families like the Dalitzes, the climb is steep, and the rungs are slippery. Mo isn't just a laundry boy. He's a thinker, and he's restless. He sees how hard his father works for dimes and wonders if there's a smarter way. And then Prohibition arrives, like a gift wrapped in federal policy. When the Volstead Act passes in 1920, banning the sale of alcohol across the United States, a new economy explodes overnight. Speakeasies blossom like mushrooms in every city. Bootlegging becomes not just a crime, but a career path. For sharp minds and steady hands, it's the gold rush all over again. Only this time, the gold comes in barrels. Many people still think that Mo was just a laundry kid who got lucky. But so what do you think? Could anyone really accidentally become a kingpin? The truth is quieter, simpler. Mo knew where people's needs met their vices, and in Detroit, nothing was more needed or more vice-laden than whiskey. The city becomes a hotbed of smuggling thanks to its proximity to Canada. The Detroit River is a mere mile wide, and on winter nights, it's thick enough to drive across. Mo watches the first wave of bootleggers cross the ice, hauling crates under tarps, headlights off. He's intrigued. not just by the money, but by the mechanics of it all. How they hide bottles in delivery trucks, how they pay off customs officers with poker chips and quiet nods. It's an ecosystem, and Mo studies it like a biologist watching wolves. One of his early jobs is with a soft drink company, a perfectly legal front. But behind the stacked crates of root beer, something else ferments. He doesn't talk much, just keeps records, balances ledgers, and makes suggestions here and there about improving routes and cutting costs. Before long, someone notices. This kid doesn't just understand numbers. He understands risk. His first real break comes when a man named Louis Rothkopf offers him a spot in a new operation, one that needs less muscle and more mind. Mo's in his 20s, but already he walks like someone who knows more than he says. He accepts, of course. He always accepts, quietly, deliberately, without fireworks. Back in the laundry days, shirts came in dirty, and you made them clean. Now, it's the same principle. Only the stains are legal ones, and the cleaning process is a bit more creative. Detroit begins to feel small, like a back room too crowded with whispers. Mo's eyes start drifting elsewhere. He reads about Cleveland, less industrial, more political. A place where back rooms might have windows. By now, his father has retired. The old man still presses a shirt now and then, out of habit. But Mo? He's pressing palms, pressing bills, pressing the seams of power. Gently, steadily, invisibly. And Detroit watches him go, with a shrug and a smirk, like a city that always knew the quiet ones never stay long. The basement smells like mildew and raw whiskey. The lights are low, bare bulbs hanging from cracked ceilings, and the air is heavy with the scent of heat on copper. This isn't a speakeasy, not yet. It's a workshop, or maybe a laboratory, because this is where Mo Dalitz really learns his craft. Bootlegging, as it turns out, is less about the booze and more about the math. Mo spends his early Cleveland days crouched beside a still, notebook in hand, watching grain alcohol run into mason jars. He's not tasting it. He's calculating how much time it takes per batch, how many jars per crate, what a single crate can sell for in a dry bar uptown, and what happens to profits if one cop gets too curious. Louis Rothkopf is there too, older, louder, more connected. But even Louis, with all his bluster and bravado, starts letting Mo do the books. There's a quiet trust building between them. Rothkopf likes being the face. Dalitz prefers being the mind in the back room. And Cleveland? It's the perfect city for their kind of magic. Just industrial enough to blend in, just corrupt enough to look the other way. The year is 1921. America is a year deep into Prohibition, and people are already pretending the law doesn't exist. Secret doors are creaking open in barber shops. Jazz bands are playing just a little too loudly behind bakery walls. And Mo is building a distribution map that would make a railroad tycoon jealous. He's still young, just 23, but you wouldn't know it by the way he stands during meetings, always at the edge of the group, never interrupting. But when he speaks, people stop fidgeting, because Mo doesn't waste breath. And when you're moving barrels of illegal liquor in broad daylight, a man who wastes nothing becomes essential. One of the first bootlegging jobs Mo organizes involves a string of fake laundry trucks. A nod to his past, maybe. Each truck is stacked with crates labeled soap flakes, but they jingle if you hit the brakes too hard. The drivers are paid double to keep quiet and triple if they're arrested and don't talk. Only one ever is, and he doesn't say a word. Mo rewards him with a stack of cash and a nod. No big speech, just loyalty, traded and returned like poker chips. Bootlegging isn't just about running booze. It's about building a system. Mo's system is precise. Suppliers in Canada, drop points in Toledo, relay runners through back streets, and every fourth delivery is deliberately bad, meant to be caught, to keep the law busy with distractions. He plays the game like chess, 2 moves ahead and always under the radar. One historical fact stands tall here. By the mid-1920s, Cleveland becomes one of the Midwest's biggest illegal liquor hubs, rivaling even Chicago. People often credit Capone for the Midwest's bootleg empire, but insiders know Mo's crew is just as smart, just as fast, and a hell of a lot quieter. The Mayfield Road Mob, as the newspapers start calling them, becomes the city's worst-kept secret. The name doesn't come from any formal branding. It's just the neighborhood where Rothkopf and Mo work out of. But it sticks, and so does their reputation. Many people still think that Mo never got his hands dirty, that he just sat behind a desk and signed papers. But so, what do you think? Could a man build an empire without breaking a few bottles? Maybe even a few laws? The truth is fuzzier than most court records. What's known is this. Mo never gets arrested during Prohibition. Not once. His name doesn't appear on police ledgers. His fingerprints aren't on any confiscated crates. But every cop in the city knows the name. Not because they've seen him, but because they've heard about the man who never gets seen. He dresses well, not flashy, tailored. His suits are gray, his ties dark, his shoes polished. The kind of man who could pass for a mid-level banker. He doesn't drive fast, doesn't drink much, doesn't carry a weapon. But he listens. Oh, how he listens. At one point, a rival gang tries to muscle in on one of their distribution routes. A few warehouses are burned. 2 drivers go missing. Mo responds not with violence, but with economics. He cuts the price of liquor just enough to put the competition out of business. Within 3 months, their rivals are bankrupt. Quietest turf war in Cleveland history. This is where his legend starts to take root. Not as a killer, but as a calculator. A man who can weaponize numbers, who can dismantle opposition with a pencil and a ledger pad. By 1925, Mo's operation is clean, profitable, and heavily networked. He keeps a small circle. Rothkopf for connections, a few trusted drivers, 1 lawyer who works out of the back of a cigar shop, and a local judge who drinks more than he sentences. Everyone else? Compartmentalized. No one sees the full picture but Mo, and he likes it that way. He moves into a modest house with an even more modest front yard. No mansion, no fountains. Just enough lawn to trim on Sundays, and enough space in the garage for a couple of crates that don't belong to anyone. By now, the basement operations have evolved. No more damp mildew. Now it's all polished copper, organized shelves, even an office space with real books. It almost looks legitimate. Almost. The police occasionally raid the wrong place, sometimes on purpose. A bar gets closed down for a week. A warehouse sits vacant just long enough to throw people off the scent. It's all part of the show. And Mo? Mo just watches, waits, sharpens pencils, and calculates risk. Because in the world of bootlegging, the loud ones get famous, and the quiet ones stay in business. Cleveland wakes up with hangovers and whispers. It's 1926, and the air carries the faint perfume of steam, gasoline, and unresolved secrets. In back rooms across the city, someone is counting money that technically doesn't exist, and odds are Mo Dalitz designed the formula they're using. He's not flashy, never has been, but his name begins to travel. Not through headlines or scandal, but through murmured sentences that end with knowing glances. "Ask Mo," they say. "He'll know how to fix it." Whether it is a payroll problem, a liquor shipment gone sideways, or a cop who needs to forget something, Dalitz is becoming Cleveland's go-to fixer. Quiet, polished, precise, and alongside him, always within arm's reach, is Louis Rothkopf. The two men are a strange pair. Rothkopf, brash and fond of dramatic gestures, and Mo, who measures his words the way a jeweler examines diamonds, holding them up to the light, inspecting for flaws, discarding anything too gaudy. Their partnership deepens with a shared vision. Crime should be structured, predictable, like any good business. So they begin mapping out a model that will soon shape Cleveland's criminal landscape for years. The Mayfield Road Gang becomes more than a crew. It becomes an institution. Here's your historical truth for the night. While Chicago's underworld gets all the press for its machine guns and speakeasies, Cleveland quietly builds one of the most stable and sophisticated organized crime operations in the country. No shootouts in the streets. No flashy betrayals. Just contracts, handshakes, and very tidy ledgers. And Mo? He's the backbone. Not because he's feared, but because he's useful. One of his specialties is problem solving without violence. A shipment is hijacked. Mo identifies the weak link in the chain, removes them with a severance package and a polite farewell, then redesigns the route. A local official gets too nosy. Dalitz orchestrates a series of donations to the official's favorite charities. Somehow, a little envelope finds its way to the family's mailbox. No sender listed. The reputation sticks. By now, Mo is known not just in Cleveland, but in circles that stretch into Detroit, Chicago, even New York. His influence is spreading like a clean spill. No stain, just silent saturation. And that's when the idea of a broader network begins to take shape. At a closed-door meeting in a Cleveland hotel, one with white linen tablecloths and blinds drawn tight, Dalitz sits down with representatives from other regional outfits. No name tags, no titles, just handshakes, cigars, and mutual understanding. These are the seeds of the National Crime Syndicate, a kind of council where cities aren't at war. They're on the same spreadsheet. Many people still think that Lucky Luciano created the syndicate alone. But so what do you think? Could a structure that complex really grow without someone like Dalitz running the books behind the curtain? He doesn't argue for leadership. He argues for logic. Mo proposes a system of territory sharing, fixed rates for out-of-town crews, and, his personal favorite, a central legal fund for arrested members. Think of it as health insurance for mobsters. They listen. Because Mo doesn't pitch ideas, he presents inevitabilities. And behind it all, Cleveland is booming. The Great Lakes shipping routes are rich with opportunity. Mo's crews are moving whiskey by night and legitimate goods by day. He begins purchasing stakes in trucking companies, insurance firms, and even a handful of dry cleaning operations. Because, well, why not keep the brand alive? He's not laundering money. He's pressure washing it. Dry cycle, no wrinkles. But of course success attracts attention, not all of it friendly. The IRS begins to sniff around, not with handcuffs, yet, but with spreadsheets and calculators. They start asking questions. How does a man with no official income own a warehouse, 2 properties, and a small fleet of trucks? Dalitz doesn't panic. He opens a few more legitimate companies, hires a team of lawyers who look like accountants and act like vaults. He files taxes, carefully, painstakingly, overpays slightly, just enough to make them think. Well, at least he's not hiding anything. It works. For now. His social life remains selective. He doesn't party, doesn't gamble, at least not publicly. He has a circle of confidants, yes, but he prefers home dinners and quiet chess matches to cigars and chorus girls. If someone invites him to a nightclub, he smiles politely and sends someone else in his place. One evening, during a rare gathering of Cleveland's criminal elite, a younger member of a rival outfit tries to impress Mo. Loud talk, a little braggadocio, maybe a too obvious mention of someone he took care of last week. Mo doesn't flinch. He just smiles softly, leans in and says, "Loud men usually end up in small graves." The room falls silent, and the young man never shows up to another meeting again, not out of fear, but embarrassment. Because Mo doesn't kill reputations, he deflates them. He's not just in the business of liquor anymore. He's in the business of balance, keeping crews in line, keeping the public happy, keeping the government away. It's exhausting, but he makes it look effortless. There's a small park he walks through every Sunday morning. Always alone. Sometimes a newspaper under his arm. Sometimes a small bag of peanuts for the squirrels. People in the neighborhood know who he is, but they look away. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Mo's the kind of man who makes a place feel protected, even if you don't know how. And Cleveland, for all its grit and grime, begins to feel like Mo's city. The buildings don't wear his name, but they wear his fingerprints, and yet, beneath it all, there's a murmur, a quiet itch he can't shake. Vegas, he's heard stories. A place with wide skies, cheap land, and one broken-down casino gasping in the desert. It's risky, unfinished, almost foolish. But to a man like Mo Dalitz, it sounds like possibility. The desert doesn't whisper. It hums, low and endless, like a song with no chorus. In 1949, Mo Dalitz stands on the edge of Las Vegas, shoes caked with dust, sleeves rolled up, looking at a horizon made of potential and heat. Vegas isn't a city yet. It's barely a mirage. Just a smattering of neon signs fighting the sun, a few 2-bit casinos, and more jackrabbits than people. But Mo sees something here, something cleaner than Cleveland's smoke, something younger than Chicago's cement. This place isn't built yet, and that's exactly why he's interested. Because Mo Dalitz isn't just a businessman, he's a planner. And this town is a blank blueprint. It starts, as these things often do, with a problem. The Desert Inn, a half-finished casino project, has run out of money. The banks won't touch it. The locals don't trust it. The desert, it seems, is swallowing another dream whole. But the man behind the project, Wilbur Clark, is desperate. He needs investors, quiet ones. And suddenly, a soft-spoken man from Cleveland arrives with a pencil-thin mustache and a ledger full of solutions. Mo agrees to bankroll the rest of the project, under one condition. He takes control behind the scenes. Clark gets to be the smiling front man. Mo gets the real power. He doesn't move in guns blazing. He brings structure. Payrolls are cleaned up. Deliveries start arriving on time. Staff are trained like concierge soldiers. And slowly, the Desert Inn opens its doors with something rare for Vegas in 1950. Professionalism. Here's your historical anchor. When the Desert Inn officially opens in April 1950, it becomes the first hotel casino in Las Vegas to be built using Teamsters Union pension funds, a tactic pioneered by Dalitz and others who understood that mob money needed to wear a suit and tie. It works better than anyone expects. Tourists begin arriving. Entertainers sign on. And while the casino floor hums with dice and applause, Mo sits in a quiet office upstairs, far from the noise, adjusting budgets and making phone calls. He starts importing talent. Not just singers and dancers, but accountants, chefs, electricians. Anyone who understands that Vegas isn't just a party, it's a machine. Soon, other casinos start looking at the Desert Inn and wondering how it runs so smoothly. And if they look closely enough, they'll notice a pattern. The Dalit's touch. Efficient, invisible, ruthlessly polite. Mo isn't trying to make Vegas flashy. He's trying to make it permanent. He begins forming alliances with other major figures in the burgeoning casino world, some with clean records, others with names like Lansky and Siegel. But unlike them, Mo avoids drama. When Bugsy Siegel gets gunned down in Beverly Hills, Mo sends no flowers, no messages, just a subtle shifting of assets and contacts. Many people still think that Mo didn't belong in Vegas, that he was too reserved, too methodical. But so what do you think? Could the neon jungle really have flourished without someone playing chess behind the curtain? As Vegas grows, so does Mo's portfolio. He acquires interests in the Stardust, the Fremont, the Hacienda. Not as a headline figure, but as the man behind the curtain, making sure the lights stay on and the security staff know which guests get a little extra attention. He develops a system of soft surveillance, not cameras, not yet, but trusted staff trained to watch, to know who's betting above their means, who's skimming chips, who's bringing the wrong kind of heat into the lobby. It's not paranoia, it's insurance, and Mo knows all about insurance. He starts several legitimate businesses around Vegas, a linen service, a supply company, even a small trucking firm. Every casino on the Strip starts buying from these companies. Coincidence? Hardly. It's vertical integration, mob style. A gambler loses $50 at the tables, and a portion of that money quietly pays for the napkins at dinner. But Dalitz doesn't just hoard power, he reinvests it. He begins contributing to local hospitals, schools, and community programs. He donates land for the Las Vegas Country Club. He starts attending city council meetings, not in shadows, but in a tailored suit with polished shoes. Suddenly the narrative shifts. Mo Dalitz, former bootlegger, is now being called a civic-minded businessman. He likes the sound of it. And yet, the past doesn't disappear just because the desert sun is bright. Back in Cleveland, whispers continue. Old friends grow older, and some less careful. Investigators poke around the Mayfield days. A few loose ends try to talk. Mo responds the only way he knows how, with calm and distance. He never threatens, he simply reminds. That same year, 1951, he is subpoenaed to testify before the Kefauver Committee, part of a sweeping investigation into organized crime. Cameras roll, reporters scribble. But Mo Dalitz remains composed, respectful, dignified. He admits to some involvement in bootlegging. It was the times, he says. Everybody did something during Prohibition, but gambling, corruption? No, sir, not him. He's just a businessman, a hotel investor, a man trying to bring jobs and tourism to Nevada. And somehow it sticks. The committee doesn't press harder. The headlines fade, and Mo returns to the Strip as if the whole thing was just a polite misunderstanding. After all, no one wants to prosecute the man who's helping to build a city. By 1953, Las Vegas is unrecognizable. The Strip glows at night like a second sunrise. Tourists arrive by the busload, and at the center of it all is a man with no official title, no statue, no portrait, just clean books and a reputation built on velvet silence. He still walks the casino floor sometimes, not to gamble, just to observe, to adjust a crooked painting, to greet a doorman by name, to ask gently why the ashtrays weren't emptied quicker last night, because that's Mo Dalitz. He doesn't run Vegas with fear. He runs it like a business. By the mid-1950s, Mo Dalitz no longer blends into Vegas. He defines it. Not with neon lights or cigar smoke, but with steady contracts, stable payrolls, and an eerie sense of order in a town built on chaos. Other casino bosses throw parties to announce new ventures. Mo files paperwork and quietly opens a new wing. His name rarely appears in headlines, but if you look closely, past the bright marquees, past the fountains and the showroom glamour, you'll find his fingerprints on construction permits, on water usage approvals, on the faint traces of Teamsters pension money flowing through rebar and marble tile. The Desert Inn becomes a model of efficiency, and other casino operators start visiting to observe, then copy Dalitz's model. He welcomes them with a firm handshake and a reserved smile. If they want to learn, fine, but they'd better remember who taught them. One morning, a competitor's new casino opens down the street. A giant brass band, showgirls, confetti, the works. Mo, sitting in a quiet booth inside the Desert Inn coffee shop, simply raises his cup and says, "Loud openings often mean quiet closings." And sure enough, that flashy property struggles to keep up with expenses within the year. This is Mo's Vegas, tough, disciplined, and built to last. He begins hosting more formal dinners. Not mob sit-downs, those are for other cities. These are polished affairs, full of city officials, judges, and men who smell like legal pads and leather briefcases. Dalitz never dominates the conversation. He asks questions, listens carefully, and then follows up 3 days later with exactly the favor or funding someone didn't realize they needed. One judge receives a scholarship fund for his niece. A building inspector finds a new roof on his church. A city planner's brother gets a call from a hotel about a sudden job opening. Mo doesn't call in favors. He prepays them. Here's a mainstream historical fact for you. By 1955, Las Vegas had over a dozen resort-style casinos, and many of them, directly or indirectly, traced their funding, management, or operations back to people like Mo Dalitz and his network of Midwestern financiers and mob-friendly unions. Dalitz, however, always stays 1 degree removed. Not on the deed, but on the check. Not in the meeting minutes, but on the memo that got them typed. He's also changing, getting older, sharper, less interested in petty rivalries and more interested in long-term vision. He starts talking about making Las Vegas a city of the future, a planned, intentional space where entertainment meets infrastructure. Not just gambling, but schools. Not just nightclubs, but hospitals. So he puts his money where his mouth is. In 1957, Mo helps fund the Sunrise Hospital and Medical Center, one of the most important health institutions in Vegas. It's not a secret donation either. His name is attached, and the city notices. Even skeptics begin calling him the respectable face of old Vegas. And Mo? He just nods and gets back to work. But don't be fooled by the philanthropy. He hasn't gone soft. He's simply evolved. He still attends the quiet meetings, still talks to people who don't give interviews, still makes calls from untraceable phones. He just doesn't need to enforce anything anymore. Because in Vegas, the Dalitz name doesn't inspire fear. It inspires efficiency. There's a story that floats around, half urban legend, half whispered truth. One night, a young pit boss at the Desert Inn catches a small group of cheaters. He gets excited, calls security, makes a scene. Within minutes, Mo appears, not angry, but calm. He speaks with the men privately, refunds their chips, and personally walks them to the door. Later, when the pit boss asks why Mo didn't press charges, Mo replies, "It's cheaper to let them leave quietly than to let their story get printed." That's the kind of logic that builds empires. Many people still think that Mo Dalitz was just a mobster in a good suit. But so what do you think? Could someone this methodical really survive 40 years in organized crime without knowing how to stop being a criminal? That's the question Vegas asks again and again, because the line Mo walks is razor thin, and he walks it in silence. He avoids the flamboyance of contemporaries like Meyer Lansky or Sam Giancana. He doesn't buy yachts. He doesn't make scenes. When he travels, it's coach, unless someone else insists on upgrading him. When he's in a hotel he doesn't own, he still tips the bellhop. Always the same amount, always in cash. He lives in a modest home with a view of the city he helped build. A tidy driveway, a front yard that gets watered twice a week, no more. Inside, there's a study, wood-paneled walls, a leather chair, no gold fixtures, just order. Sometimes he sits there for hours, listening to radio broadcasts or flipping through reports, not just about his businesses, but about Vegas, traffic patterns, water rights, property zoning. Because Mo doesn't just own Vegas, he studies it, and he understands something most don't. The city is not about winners. It's about return customers. The secret to a casino isn't how much you take. It's how often people come back for the chance to give. And that principle extends far beyond blackjack tables. So Mo builds, quietly, consistently. Entire neighborhoods spring up around the strip. Roads get paved, sidewalks extended. And every time a new project is approved, there's a good chance Mo recommended the contractor or married his cousin to them. But as the city grows, so does scrutiny. The FBI begins assembling thicker files. Newspaper columnists, especially from the East Coast, start sniffing around. The Senate renews its interest in mob involvement in Las Vegas. And the old rumors that Teamster money built the city start to circle again. Still, Mo remains unbothered, unindicted, unrattled. He knows that empires don't fall from outside pressure. They fall from cracks inside. And Mo, he's the one who patches the cracks. The lights of the strip blink steadily into the dusk, each one a quiet heartbeat in Mo Dalitz's larger plan. It's 1958 now, and Vegas is no longer an experiment. It's a success story written in neon. Tourists arrive by the thousands each week, drawn by legends of luck and stories whispered into cocktail glasses. But very few of them know whose math keeps the elevators running, whose balance sheets keep the champagne cold. And Mo is fine with that. He's begun mastering the art of visibility through invisibility. His name mentioned politely in business circles, his face known just enough to pass as respectable, his fingerprints never quite turning up in the wrong place. While others crave attention, Mo cultivates neutrality. Still, the structure behind it all begins to shift. The union money, those quiet little loans from the Teamsters pension fund, has built half the city by now. Hotels, clubs, restaurants, all financed at terms that would make a Wall Street banker nervous. But Mo isn't nervous. He's disciplined. Every payment gets tracked. Every manager has a file. Every favor comes with a receipt, even if it's invisible. Here's your historical anchor. By the late 1950s, the Teamsters Pension Fund, under Jimmy Hoffa's influence, had lent over $200 million to various projects, many of which were casino-related. And behind many of those deals, the same quiet network Mo helped construct back in Cleveland. But Vegas doesn't run on money alone. It runs on image, and that image needs polish. So Mo begins courting entertainers, gently. He isn't buying them, he's sheltering them. The Rat Pack? They know which hotels offer them private entrances, which lounges let them rehearse without reporters. And if Frank Sinatra occasionally needs a room comped after a bad night, Mo doesn't blink. He understands value. Sometimes, a good song at the right table brings in more cash than 100 roulette wheels. He never makes it about loyalty. He makes it about comfort. He offers protection without threat, and that somehow makes him more powerful than the men who swing fists. And now people come to him, not out of fear, but out of need. Casino owners struggling with overhead, city planners caught between political donors, lounge acts who can't get booked because of rumors. They show up with half excuses and worried eyes, and Mo just listens. Sometimes he says nothing. Sometimes he writes a name on a napkin and folds it once before handing it over. No lectures, just solutions. He starts buying land outside the strip, slowly. Not because he wants to build, but because he wants to control what can't be built there. He understands something few others do. Sometimes power is not in what you create, but what you prevent. Still, shadows gather. The IRS reopens old files. The FBI begins cross-referencing property records with Teamster loans. New senators, eager to prove themselves, start asking loud questions in front of cameras. The public mood shifts. Organized crime is no longer exotic. It's threatening, and yet Mo remains untouched. How? Because he's always one step removed. When a Senate subcommittee issues a subpoena in 1959, Mo testifies. Calm, cordial. He wears a conservative suit, carries a briefcase, and addresses each senator as Sir. He admits to knowing people, to attending meetings. But he's never angry, never defensive. When asked if he's ever been involved in criminal activity, he pauses, just long enough to make the moment human, then says, "I've made some mistakes in my youth. Haven't we all? And somehow it works." Again, many people still think that these committee hearings were a show, that no real truth ever came out of them. But so what do you think? Could a man like Mo Dalitz really walk through decades of investigations without once being convicted, unless he knew how to stay just clean enough? Because this is where Mo excels. Not in lies, but in margins. He never claims innocence. He simply lets you decide if you can prove guilt. He returns to Vegas with barely a wrinkle in his reputation, and now his next phase begins. He launches plans for the Las Vegas Country Club, a sprawling, elite institution with carefully manicured greens and a membership list that reads like a who's who of Western finance. He knows the irony, a former bootlegger building golf courses for senators. But he also knows the symbolism. Country clubs aren't just about leisure. They're about legitimacy. He works with architects, landscapers, city officials, offers generous grants to nearby schools to smooth over zoning issues, donates uniforms to the local high school football team, sponsors a city beautification project, and just like that, the country club breaks ground without a single protest. His own office sits off-site, of course, just a few blocks away, above a small insurance firm with frosted glass windows. No gold plaque, no fanfare, but anyone who matters knows which floor to ride the elevator to. Inside, Mo's desk is immaculate. One phone, one clock, a notepad with a fountain pen he sharpens himself each week. On the wall, a black and white photograph of the Cleveland laundry where it all began. Every week, he receives reports, some typed, some whispered. One on water rates, one on security camera placement in the Fremont's back hallway, one on a new chef at the Sands who may or may not be pocketing lobster tails. Mo reads them all, marks a few, files the rest. His system hums, like the strip at night, constant, soft, unwavering. He's not building an empire anymore. He's maintaining one, and the desert, ever patient, ever still, stretches around him like the future. The strip blinks on like clockwork. Lights throb against the dusk. Signs flicker to life in a choreographed performance that tourists take for granted. But behind every bulb, there's a power line. And behind every casino's steady hum, there's Mo Dalitz. Still unseen, still essential. It's 1960, and Las Vegas is no longer the strange experiment in desert capitalism it once was. It's a full-fledged playground for the nation, complete with champagne brunches, velvet-lined theaters, and ice in every glass. But even as the city dances louder, Mo continues his silent rhythm, walking the line between businessman and ghost. This is when he perfects his specialty, solving problems without making noise. One morning, the Stardust's entertainment schedule falls apart. A headliner cancels last minute, the backup act's visa hits a snag, and the lounge host gets caught in a compromising situation involving a waitress and 3 too many martinis. The casino manager panics. Mo? He takes his breakfast as usual, black coffee, 1 egg, no toast, and makes 3 calls. By dinner, a substitute act is flown in, the lounge host quietly resigns, and the local paper runs a puff piece on the spontaneous charm of the evening's revised performance. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't take credit. But the next morning, there's a fresh box of Cuban cigars on his desk, sent anonymously. Vegas knows who to thank. Meanwhile, back east, storm clouds gather. The Kennedy administration enters the White House on a platform of reform. They promise a crackdown on organized crime. The FBI receives expanded resources. Task forces multiply like ants at a picnic. Jimmy Hoffa becomes a walking headline. And with him, so does the Teamsters Union. Still tied, however faintly, to the same pension fund Mo once used to build a glittering empire. And that empire has grown. Mo's interests now reach into the Desert Inn, the Stardust, the Fremont, and the Hacienda. Not on paper, of course, but through networks of shell companies, nominee owners, and a Rolodex of loyal accountants. He maintains control with surgical precision. Here's your historical fact. By 1961, Mo Dalitz is considered one of the most powerful and least visible figures in Las Vegas. His name appears in FBI files. He's cited in Senate subcommittee documents. But still, no arrests, no charges, no convictions. Why? Because Mo Dalitz doesn't leave fingerprints. He leaves favors. His interactions with politicians become even more deliberate. He donates to both parties, hosts events that support police widows' funds, sends discreet wedding gifts to city council members' daughters. His business card might as well say, public benefactor, but even benefactors have to play defense. One afternoon, an IRS agent begins asking too many questions about a certain insurance company Mo partially funds. Instead of confrontation, Mo sends flowers to the agent's mother. A week later, the audit is downgraded. No explanation. Just a polite letter from Washington that the file has been reviewed and resolved. This is how Mo plays. No hard edges. Just pressure applied in all the right places, like a massage on a sore muscle. Many people still think the mob ran Vegas like a circus. Chaotic, loud, dripping with violence. But so, what do you think? Could an empire of this size really endure that long without someone in the back room reading balance sheets more carefully than blackjack cards? Dalitz continues to expand, not in casinos, but in respectability. He begins investing in civic projects, funds new construction at the Las Vegas Convention Center, supports a children's cancer ward, offers scholarships for hotel management programs at the local university. One journalist writes a column titled, "From Booze to Benevolence, the Reinvention of Mo Dalitz." Mo reads it, folds the paper, doesn't smile, because he knows reinvention isn't about changing. It's about hiding in plain sight. Evenings find him walking the Strip, not in a showy way, just a stroll. A short visit to the Desert Inn bar, a conversation with the night manager. A quick nod to the doorman who's been there for 17 years. Dalitz knows the names, birthdays, which employees just had a baby, which ones are sending money back to Detroit. He remembers it all, and maybe that's what makes him different from the rest. He doesn't just manage money, he manages memory. In early 1962, the Vegas landscape begins to shift again. Howard Hughes has started sniffing around. His name still whispered, but his money already moving. The city prepares for the arrival of new capital, corporate capital, clean capital. But Mo is ready, always has been. He starts holding quiet lunches with banking executives, with men in gray suits who don't gamble, but who like the idea of Vegas being less Mafia, more Marriott. And Mo speaks their language: profit margins, municipal bonds, property tax strategies. They never ask about his past, and he never offers, because the past isn't what matters in Vegas, only what glows at night. And Mo? He built the first light switch. There's a calm that settles over Las Vegas in the early 60s. Not the calm of peace, but the kind that comes right before a new kind of storm. By now, the city hums like a well-oiled machine. The rooms stay full, the cards keep flipping, and the air conditioning blasts with relentless efficiency across dining rooms, cocktail lounges, and 1,000-seat showrooms. But while the tourists line up for buffets and Bobby Darin croons under soft lights, Mo Dalitz is thinking about insulation. Not the kind in walls, but the kind around power. He's seen what happens to men who sit too close to the flame. Bugsy Siegel got his brains splattered in Beverly Hills. Meyer Lansky found himself pushed into exile. Even Jimmy Hoffa, who once stood like a lion over the pension fund gates, now feels the FBI's breath behind his neck. Mo, meanwhile, is changing his tactics. He knows Vegas can't stay a mob town forever. Eventually, someone will want to turn this city into a boardroom. The suits are coming. Men with business degrees and legal teams instead of brass knuckles. The casinos are growing, the regulations tightening, and the government is planting new people in the state gaming commission every month. So Mo begins a subtle retreat. Not from power, but from traceability. He quietly divests from certain holdings. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a slow reallocation. He sells a silent partnership here, a property stake there, always with clean paperwork, always with a warm handshake and a handshake after the handshake. He still shows up, still attends events, still strolls the floors of the Desert Inn, but he's no longer interested in owning the engine. Now, he wants to own the blueprint. One of the smartest moves he makes during this time? Real estate. Here's a mainstream historical detail. During the early 1960s, Dalitz increases his investments in land development, helping shape the Las Vegas Country Club and a range of residential housing projects designed for the city's expanding middle and upper classes. The Country Club, in particular, becomes his crown jewel. Not because it's flashy, but because it's respectable. Politicians tee off there. Bankers, district attorneys. No one whispers about backroom deals. They whisper about backswing techniques and mortgage-backed securities. Mo rarely plays golf himself, but he always walks the course at sunset, clipboard in hand, chatting with groundskeepers, complimenting gardeners, and sometimes he meets a councilman on the 9th hole with a quiet word and a quiet solution. He's not just shaping Vegas anymore. He's shaping the narrative around Vegas. Many people still think that by 1963, Mo Dalitz was fading, that he'd cashed out and stepped away. But so what do you think? Could a man this deliberate really just retire from a city that never sleeps? No, Mo's not leaving. He's fortifying. He begins donating more. Establishes scholarships, sponsors local arts programs, helps fund low-income housing in underdeveloped parts of town. And each time he writes a check, a little more of the past blurs into soft focus. Reporters occasionally try to catch him off guard, ask about the old days, the bootlegging, the Mayfield Road gang. Mo just chuckles, waves a hand, says, "That was a different world. I run hotels now." And technically, he's not lying. Still, the whispers remain. Not loud, but present. The FBI keeps his file open. New agents take over old notes. They circle his name on organizational charts and underline phrases like Cleveland roots, Desert Inn influence, and suspected pension intermediaries. But nothing sticks, because Mo never touches the dirty money. Not directly. And any time someone thinks they've caught him holding something, they discover it was actually held by a trust, managed by a lawyer, whose name traces back to a firm that no longer exists. It's not magic. It's just good paperwork. One night, a young hotel manager at the Fremont approaches him with a problem. A union rep is demanding kickbacks for kitchen hires, and one of the cooks is threatening to go to the papers. The kid's nervous, sweating through his collar. Mo listens, nods, then says, "Tell the rep he's not needed anymore. As for the cook, give him a raise, a quiet one. But what if he still talks?" Mo sips his drink. "Then we'll give him something better to talk about. It's not about silencing people. It's about making them feel seen. That's the Dalit's difference." Meanwhile, Vegas is changing. The Sands is drawing Hollywood royalty. Hughes is circling ever closer. New resorts like Caesar's Palace are in development. The mob's grip is weakening, not through force, but through disinterest. The city is becoming corporate, and Mo, he's already there. He starts attending local planning meetings, not as a guest, but as a voice. Talks zoning laws, water usage, traffic patterns. He writes op-eds in the local paper, hosts fundraisers for cancer research, sponsors scholarships in his own name, and in the names of people he once worked hard to keep out of the papers. He's no longer the ghost in the casino's shadow. He's the man cutting the ribbon at the library opening. But make no mistake, he hasn't forgotten why the lights shine so bright in Vegas. Because once, a man in a gray suit stood in the desert and saw something others didn't. And he made it happen. Not with guns, but with plans. It's 1964 now, and Las Vegas has officially crossed into another version of itself. What was once a mirage with slot machines has become a glittering symbol of post-war optimism. A place where Midwestern couples fly in on TWA, sip brandy in velvet booths, and return home with a lighter wallet and a story to tell. But behind the chandeliers and the tuxedo dealers, Mo Dalitz watches with the quiet satisfaction of a man who knows he helped write the first chapter of a book the city is only beginning to read. He doesn't attend the opening of every new resort. That's not his style. But he's usually nearby, somewhere just off the floor, perhaps in a glass-walled office or a golf cart behind the Las Vegas Country Club. He's not retired. He's strategic, still involved, but in a way that feels less like oversight and more like orchestration. This is when Mo begins building what insiders call the quiet empire. Not flashy holdings, but layers of legitimacy. Insurance companies, real estate trusts, loan portfolios, even a few auto dealerships, each one carefully structured, fully legal, and, importantly, connected. His logic is simple. If Vegas ever turns on its old creators, he'll need more than casinos to stay above water. He'll need institutions, so he builds them. He joins boards, some civic, some corporate, sponsors educational events, is photographed next to governors, all without changing his core demeanor. Quiet, polite, just a little amused at everything. He still returns to Cleveland on occasion, not for nostalgia, but for business. There are contacts back there, old relationships, threads in the wider tapestry of the syndicate's quieter chapters. Sometimes he speaks at a charity gala. Sometimes he just visits a warehouse that used to move liquor and now stores office chairs. Here's your historical fact. By 1964, the FBI has publicly acknowledged Mo Dalitz in congressional testimony as a key figure in the transformation of the American underworld, from violent street-level rackets into structured white-collar operations. They don't have enough to indict him, but they know what he is, a fixer who outlived the age of fixing. Still, Mo keeps a close watch on his circle. Some old friends from the Mayfield days have gotten sloppy. Others, like Rothkopf, are aging out of relevance. A few new faces begin whispering about a different style of leadership. Louder, riskier, more interested in the fast money than the long game. Mo doesn't argue. He simply stops returning calls. In one meeting at the Desert Inn, a younger manager proposes an expansion plan with aggressive margins. More floors, faster credit approvals, less red tape. Mo listens, waits, then leans forward and says, "You want the casino full next week. I want it standing 10 years from now." That meeting ends quickly, because Mo isn't interested in velocity. He's interested in survivability. Many people still think Mo Dalitz got lucky, that he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But so what do you think? Could a man ride 3 decades of change without knowing exactly when to disappear from a conversation? Vegas keeps changing. Howard Hughes finally makes his move, buying up casinos like a man collecting chess pieces. He checks into the Desert Inn, Mo's Desert Inn, and essentially never checks out. Locks himself in the penthouse, sends notes down to staff by courier, buys properties in the middle of the night. And Mo? Mo steps back, just slightly, not in fear, but in curiosity. He meets with Hughes's people, smiles when they use words like restructuring and market opportunity, watches as they bring in corporate executives with little understanding of how Vegas actually works, of how customer flow connects to parking lot design, of how security staff need to be trained in manners and mob etiquette. He doesn't criticize. He just takes notes, because even empires made of paper contracts eventually need men who know how to keep the linen service running during a blackout. He begins funding seminars, actual business workshops on how to manage hotel operations in high-turnover markets, sends local students to university programs, helps design an unofficial mentorship program between veteran pit bosses and new hires. One young manager, fresh out of college, tries to tell Mo about a new software system that will revolutionize hotel reservations. Mo listens, pauses, then says, "That's good. But if it crashes, what's your backup?" The kid has no answer. Mo nods, jots something in his notepad, and never brings it up again, because that's how he works. He builds layers, fail-safes, and over time, a new kind of respect emerges. People begin to refer to him not as a mobster, not even as an old hand, but as a founding architect. And Mo? He accepts that quietly, doesn't correct them, doesn't lean into it, just nods when they say, "Vegas wouldn't be here without you." And maybe that's the truest thing anyone's ever said. The city glows like a well-kept secret. By 1965, Las Vegas no longer needs introductions. It's become its own myth. Elvis headlines the Strip. Honeymooners flock in like swallows to Capistrano, and the world begins to believe that this desert was always meant to sparkle. But Mo Dalitz knows better. He remembers when Vegas was dirt roads and scaffolding, when water had to be begged for, when permits arrived late and under the table, and when a casino was little more than a concrete box with dice and dreams. Now, the city breathes on its own. But if you listen closely, you can still hear Mo's cadence in the rhythm of its operations. This year, he makes fewer appearances on the casino floors. His walks are shorter, his pauses more frequent. But when he does arrive, It's like a well-placed comma, reminding everyone to slow down, check the math, and watch the margins. And they do. There's an old maitre d' at the Desert Inn, been there 20 years, who still pulls Mo's favorite table out of rotation whenever he's seen in the lobby. No reservation, no signal, just instinct. Because when Mo walks in, the room adjusts. That's the measure of legacy. Not how loudly you're cheered, but how gently the world rearranges itself in your presence. Still, not everything bends. The federal government, for one, is less nostalgic. Investigations into casino financing intensify. Congressional hearings turn up old connections, tired names, cross-referenced ledgers. The term organized crime has taken on a more clinical tone. Less about mob hits, more about unjust enrichment, interstate racketeering, unlawful influence of labor funds. And Mo's name? It's there, in footnotes, in appendices, always accompanied by words like suspected, believed, associated, never proven, never pinned, but never entirely absent either. He sees this for what it is. Not a chase, but a slow attempt at erasure. The system doesn't want to arrest men like Mo. It wants to replace them, so he leans further into philanthropy. He makes another donation to the Sunrise Hospital expansion, funds a new wing at a local Catholic school, endows scholarships for the children of city employees, all while filing taxes more carefully than a priest files Sunday sermons. The local paper runs a profile. From syndicate to statesman, Mo reads it over a quiet lunch. Doesn't smile, doesn't frown, just circles a few spelling errors with a pencil and folds the page in half. He's not chasing reformation. He's managing translation. Because that's what power demands now. Not secrecy, but repackaging. Many people still think Mo was trying to cleanse his image, that he was looking for redemption. But so, what do you think? Could a man like Dalitz, who outlived 3 presidents and 5 federal probes, really be interested in confession? Or did he simply understand that perception is a kind of currency? He begins mentoring more aggressively, though never under that label. Young casino executives, hotel staffers, even local reporters find themselves invited to low-key lunches or quiet drives through residential neighborhoods. He points out empty lots, suggests future investments, nudges ideas into their hands like folded napkins, and when they ask, "But what do I owe you?" he replies, "Nothing, just do something smart. These aren't favors, they're seeds." He once told a protege, "The best thing I ever did was stop needing to be thanked." And that's what separates him from the rest. He's not building loyalty, he's building continuity. Still, a few remnants of the old world linger. A former associate from the Mayfield days visits town looking for one last score. He wants access, a connection, maybe a short-term loan to float something. Mo listens, sips his water, then says, "This city doesn't float anymore. It files." The man doesn't take the hint. Mo never sees him again, because the quiet empire has no room for echoes. That same year, a new casino tries to open on the south end of the Strip, backed by money from suspicious circles. The gaming board hesitates. Papers swirl. Allegations fly. Then, just before things get messy, a completely new investor steps in. Clean, legitimate, pre-approved. No headlines. Insiders suspect Mo made the call. He doesn't confirm. But the chairman of the Gaming Commission receives an anonymous donation to his daughter's college fund 3 weeks later. Coincidence? Mo would never say. He begins sketching out a project. Part civic initiative, part personal statement. A museum, not of mob history, not even of Vegas, but of development. A place that traces the city's rise from dust to skyline. Photographs, blueprints, letters, interviews. When asked why, he says, "People remember the lights, but they forget the wiring." And wiring, to Mo Dalitz, is everything. He tours the property personally, chooses the site, hires architects, sets up a trust to ensure funding regardless of political mood. And all of it, every beam, every plaque, is done without ever once mentioning his own name. Because Mo knows something most men spend their whole lives avoiding. Power is loud, but legacy is silent. Las Vegas doesn't really have seasons, just slight variations of heat. But if you ask Mo Dalitz, 1966 feels different. The city is older now, more polished, more aware of its place in the American dream. The slot machines still chirp, the showgirls still sparkle, but there's a faint tension beneath the glamour, as if the city itself is holding its breath. And Mo? He's still here, still watching. Not from the high rollers suites or the executive boardrooms, but from a small corner office overlooking a construction site. Another hotel, another wing. He doesn't own it, doesn't need to. But the contractor used to be his driver, and the project manager. Her father once served drinks at the Desert Inn bar. Mo's network has evolved. It's not a syndicate anymore. It's a latticework, interlocking loyalties, quiet conversations, and favors that don't expire. He's no longer in charge of any one thing, but somehow, he still touches everything. This year, he begins making regular appearances at charity events, not because he wants the spotlight, but because he understands its currency. When the cameras click, Mo poses like a man who's mildly amused to be remembered, always in a gray suit, always with a clean handkerchief, and always with that slight nod that says, "You don't need to thank me. Just remember who helped." The younger crowd starts to call him Uncle Mo, not out of mockery, but out of awe. He becomes the man who introduces CEOs to city councilmen, the one who knows which lawyer can fix a zoning issue over lunch, the kind of presence that turns a maybe into a done deal. But not everything is smooth. The FBI visits again. A pair of agents, young, serious, creased at the collar. They knock politely, ask to speak with Mr. Dalitz. He welcomes them into his office, offers water, then listens patiently as they recite a list of questions they've read too many times. "Mr. Dalitz, can you confirm, were you present when?" Mo doesn't interrupt, doesn't deflect. He simply answers with a calm, practiced grace. "No, sir, I don't believe I was. I'm afraid I can't speak to that. I think you may be confusing me with someone else." And when they leave, slightly deflated, he sends a handwritten thank you note to their supervisor, commending the agents on their professionalism, because that's Mo's real weapon, courtesy. It disarms faster than threats ever could. Many people still think he had an arrangement with law enforcement. But so what do you think? Could a man really slip through decades of federal scrutiny by bribery alone? Or is there something to be said for simply never giving them a firm place to stand? Mo knows the game, and more importantly, he knows when not to play it. That same year, he quietly funds a trade school scholarship program for veterans. No ribbon cutting, no gala. Just a stack of checks and a letter that says, "We need more electricians than dancers," because Vegas might run on illusion, but someone still has to fix the wiring. He spends more time at the Las Vegas Country Club now. Not golfing, but meeting. Mornings are reserved for bankers, developers, young city planners trying to understand how things really get approved. He doesn't give them secrets, just perspective. One lunch, a junior zoning attorney asks, "Mr. Dalitz, how did you manage to build this city?" Mo dabs his lips, sets his napkin down, and replies, "You don't build cities. You notice where people are already headed and make sure there's a sidewalk." He's not being coy. He's telling the truth. The casino landscape is changing again. Corporations are sniffing around. They want ownership, not partnership. They want guarantees. Mo recognizes the difference immediately. He warns a few old friends, tells them to get their affairs in order. Some listen, some don't. A few months later, one of them is forced to sell a stake in his property under pressure from a boardroom full of lawyers. Mo sends a bottle of wine and a note. The new bosses never bring cigars. Still, he adapts. He begins meeting with hospitality consultants, studies emerging trends, reads about destination resorts and integrated experiences. He doesn't scoff. He strategizes. If the new Vegas needs consultants, then he'll know the best ones. If it needs planners, he'll train them. Because this isn't the end of his story. It's just a new chapter, and he intends to help write it. That autumn, a young senator visits Vegas, wants a tour, needs support. Mo doesn't greet him with security or staff, just offers him coffee, walks him through a hotel kitchen, introduces him to the dishwashers by name. Later, the senator says, "You run this place, don't you?" And Mo, smiling faintly, replies, "No, Senator. Just run smoother when I'm nearby." And that's the truth. He's not in charge. He's around it. And in Vegas, that's often the same thing. The calendar flips to 1967, and Las Vegas enters what the glossy magazines call its golden moment. The city is flush. Everything's big. Buffets, ballrooms, bellhops. Performers from the coasts now fight for residencies. Highways stretch wider. Flights grow cheaper. Tourists arrive like clockwork, eager to lose money beautifully. And somewhere in a modest office not far from the Strip, Mo Dalitz pours himself a glass of water, reviews a spreadsheet, and wonders how many more golden moments this city can afford before someone forgets to turn off the lights. Because Mo doesn't trust success. Not when it's loud, not when it's easy. He watches the way a farmer watches clouds. Not to celebrate the sun, but to anticipate the storm. He's seen this before. In Cleveland, when the liquor ran too freely. In the early Vegas years, when the mobsters got greedy and tried to outshine the neon. Now, he sees it again. Only this time, in suits and neckties with quarterly targets. The corporations have arrived. Hotels are being sold to conglomerates. Shareholders now decide which headliners make the stage. Middle managers use terms like asset consolidation and divestment modeling. And every new tower that rises seems to cast a longer shadow over the old names. But Mo isn't bitter. He's curious. He starts attending meetings he once would have skipped. Sits in on planning sessions with young executives who barely know the city's past. He listens more than he speaks. Offers advice only when it's useful. And still, somehow, he shapes the room. A new casino wants to build a mega resort south of the Strip. Something unprecedented in size. But the water rights are tangled. The infrastructure barely supports it. The deal teeters until one afternoon, a Key County permit arrives, stamped and signed. No one publicly credits Mo. But the next day, the lead developer sends him a leather-bound notebook engraved with his initials. Legacy moves quietly, and so does Mo. That year, he begins writing more letters. Handwritten, careful, precise. Some go to university boards, some to real estate councils, some to old friends now living quiet lives in Arizona or Florida. These aren't love letters. They're updates, notes of concern, encouragement, suggestions on how to stay relevant in a city that forgets its builders. He even drafts the first outline for what he calls a Vegas History Council. The idea is simple. Preserve the city's origin story before the brochures rewrite it. Photographs, oral interviews, timelines that begin before the big names and headlines. Many people still think Las Vegas began with Bugsy Siegel's Flamingo, but so what do you think? Could an entire city really be born from one man's bullet-riddled dream? Mo knows better. He was there before the Strip had sidewalks. He was there when water had to be trucked in, when casinos were cooled with swamp fans and prayers, when a single elevator malfunction could close a hotel for a week. And now, as others claim to innovate, Mo quietly preserves. He funds archivists, donates boxes of old maps and ledgers, helps one university launch a public history initiative focused on the post-war boom. He doesn't give speeches, just makes sure the paperwork clears. He walks slower now. His knees aren't what they were, but his memory is precise. He remembers which desert lot once hosted a moonshine still, which downtown diner served bootleg pie with a side of silence, which city councilman used to sneak cigars into zoning meetings in his socks. He still dines once a week at the Desert Inn. Same booth, same drink. One time, a new server, fresh from Phoenix, asks if he's Mr. Dalitz. Mo chuckles. Close enough. He tips well anyway, because Mo's legacy isn't built on being known. It's built on being felt. And yet not everyone sees it that way. A new generation of investigative journalists is on the rise. Young, eager, self-righteous. One of them calls Mo's office asking for a statement about alleged connections to early labor union scandals. Mo's secretary replies, Mr. Dalitz is not available for speculation. And the story, when it prints, is thin. Vague timelines. Hearsay. The kind of piece that vanishes beneath a Sunday ad insert. Mo reads it, folds it, files it in a drawer marked noise, because that's what it is. He knows the real stories never make the front page. They live in handshake corridors and contracts written in fountain pen, in phone calls made before the headlines, and decisions made in hotel kitchens long before the press arrives. One evening, after attending a charity fundraiser for a new children's hospital wing, he lingers outside the banquet hall. The night air smells of jasmine and chlorine. A junior hotel executive, nervous, maybe new, approaches and says, Mr. Dalitz, I don't mean to bother, but how did you keep control of a city like this for so long? Mo looks at the young man, tired but kind, then replies, You don't control a city. You serve it before it realizes it needs you. And with that, he gets into his car, window down, no driver. Drives himself home, just like he always has. No entourage, just presence. The year is 1968, and the world feels like it's tilting. Riots in the streets, protests on college lawns, assassinations that make the evening news feel like obituaries carved in static. But in Las Vegas, the neon still buzzes. The drinks are still cold, and somewhere just beyond the shine, Mo Dalitz leans back in a leather chair and reads the headlines without flinching, because he's seen this before. Unrest doesn't scare him. It precedes every major shift. And Mo knows that when the outside world trembles, Las Vegas becomes something else entirely. An escape hatch, a fantasy, a capsule sealed tight with velvet and coin clinks, and he's ready for it. This year, the tourists come in bigger waves. Not just gamblers, but families, honeymooners, even middle-class workers spending their week's wages in a single dizzying weekend. Mo adjusts accordingly, begins quietly advising hotel operators to soften their image. More breakfast buffets, less cigarette smoke, more family packages, fewer dark alleys. He doesn't tell them how to run things, he just suggests. And the smart ones listen, because when Mo suggests, the city tends to follow. Behind the scenes, he's involved in a new project, a residential development just outside the city limits. It's not glamorous, no fountains, no gold trim, but it's built to last. Affordable homes, clean layouts, streets named after trees that don't grow in Nevada. He knows exactly what it is. A landing place For dealers, cooks, doormen, for cocktail servers with kids, for former associates looking to live quietly, pay taxes, mow their own lawns. Mo's empire, if you can still call it that, is now made of suburbs and sidewalks, and he likes it that way. Here's your historical touchpoint. In the late 1960s, Dalitz began shifting much of his capital toward legitimate development, housing, public amenities, and philanthropic initiatives. He was no longer merely associated with casinos. He was now associated with neighborhoods. Meanwhile, the corporate wave crests higher. The stardust changes hands again. New suits walk the halls, murmuring about brand synergy and vertical integration. Mo meets with them, polite, patient. They present graphs, use jargon, refer to him kindly as one of the pioneers. He smiles, thanks them, then asks who's handling the night kitchen supplier contract. They don't know. So he excuses himself, makes one quiet call, and ensures the kitchen still runs on time, just like it has for 20 years. Because no matter how many zeros you add to the quarterly report, the soup still has to arrive hot. Many people still think Mo Dalitz retired quietly in the 60s, that he simply faded into the background like an old oil painting. But so what do you think? Could a man who built a city out of sand really forget to water the garden? Mo hasn't stepped away. He's stepped aside, and from there he does what he's always done. Notice. He notices when a former waitress opens her own diner on Fremont Street, sends her a bouquet the first day. He notices when a small hotel security guard wins a City Bravery Award, sends a donation in his name to the guard's alma mater. He notices when a city council member hesitates during a vote on new zoning regulations, invites him to a quiet breakfast, listens, offers context, doesn't pressure. And when the vote passes, he doesn't celebrate. He just marks it in his calendar. System working. In his study, the walls are different now. Gone are the maps and ledgers. In their place, photographs. Black and white, some fading. A ribbon cutting from the Desert Inn's early days. A grainy shot of him on Mayfield Road. A smiling snapshot of hotel staff from 1953, standing in front of freshly polished floors. He looks at them like a man reviewing his own archaeology. No nostalgia, just inventory. Late one night, a reporter calls asking for an interview for a book on Las Vegas's founding. Mo declines, of course, but he sends a letter. 2 pages, typed neatly, outlining a few corrections to common misconceptions. He doesn't sign it, but the envelope is scented faintly of cedar, the kind used to line the drawers of men who remember when things were built by hand. At the country club, he still walks. Slower now. One knee stiffer than the other, sometimes with a cane. Not out of necessity, but as a conversation piece. He greets staff by name, offers small observations. Bermuda grass doesn't like cold wind, or that gutter needs reinforcing before the season changes. Not commands, reminders. And everyone listens, because it's Mo. He's not a myth. He's a mechanism. One night over dinner, an old associate remarks, "Funny how none of us thought we'd make it past 40. Mo pours the wine, glances out the window at the lights of the strip, and replies, "We didn't. We built past it. That's the secret, after all. It was never about surviving Vegas. It was about outliving what it used to be." And as the wind rustles the desert in the distance, Mo knows. He has. Las Vegas never really sleeps, but by 1969, it's dreaming bigger than ever. The city pulses with television cameras, record-breaking shows, and hotel suites booked months in advance. Streets widen, billboards grow. The Rat Pack's banter echoes through showroom speakers while America watches the moon landing on lobby televisions beneath chandeliers. And through it all, Mo Dalitz walks quietly in the margins, slower, grayer, but still present. He's not trying to compete anymore. He doesn't need to. The game has changed, and Mo's fingerprints are already dry on the foundation. The Strip runs on speed now. New owners, bigger deals, fast-talking lawyers, and faster credit lines. But every now and then, someone makes a mistake, and that's when they call Mo. He doesn't advertise it. There's no office number, no title on a business card. But his reputation still circulates like a private currency. A casino manager whispers about a licensing snag. A hotelier needs help with a labor negotiation. A zoning proposal is suddenly delayed. And somewhere between dinner and dessert, Mo makes a few calls. The problem fades. No invoices are exchanged. Just quiet nods and maybe a small envelope with a thank you tucked inside a checkbook or jacket pocket. Because some cities run on power, Vegas still runs, in part, on gratitude. He spends more time with city leaders now. Real ones. Mayors, school board chairs, water district officials. They no longer pretend not to know him. In fact, they seek him out, not because they want favors, but because Mo understands systems. One afternoon, during a meeting about a proposed civic center expansion, a young engineer begins listing the projected traffic issues and permitting delays. Mo, sitting silently, interjects with a single question. Have you accounted for the storm runoff near the east wall? It flooded in '53. There's silence, then a frantic scribble of pens. He's not trying to correct them. He's helping them avoid history repeating itself. Here's your historical fact for this chapter. By the end of the 1960s, Mo Dalitz was involved with over a dozen civic initiatives in Las Vegas, ranging from healthcare to educational funding to infrastructure development. His name often appeared in minutes, not headlines, and that's exactly how he wanted it. Many people still think Dalitz was lucky, that he just pivoted fast enough, just smiled at the right cameras and dodged the wrong questions. But so, what do you think? Could anyone accidentally become the go-to advisor for a city built on risk? Mo never dodged the truth. He just redirected it. He begins preparing for something else now. Not retirement, but reduction. A narrowing of his focus. Less casino oversight, more city planning. Less reactive work, more legacy shaping. One of his longtime staffers jokes, "You finally going to slow down, Mo?" He replies, "I don't slow down. I just walk around different corners." Still, he makes time for ritual. Every Friday, he walks the floors of the Desert Inn. He doesn't interfere, just walks, checks the lighting, nods to the pit bosses, watches the carpet pattern near the elevators, still holding up after years. A cocktail waitress once asked why he always walked the same loop. He answered, "If it ever doesn't feel like mine, I'll know it's time to go." That day hasn't come yet. He also begins mentoring more, quietly, one-on-one. A few young city officials, a handful of ambitious kids from working-class neighborhoods. He listens to their ideas, asks the questions no one else bothers to ask. What happens if your funding falls through? Who signs off on your permits? What's your backup plan if the chairman retires? They come thinking he'll show them power. He teaches them plumbing, because Mo understands. Empires don't collapse because of drama. They collapse because someone forgot to check the pipes. At home, things are simpler now. No lavish decor, just books. Stacks of old ledgers in a cabinet, a small clock he keeps precisely wound. Photographs on the mantle, not of Vegas marquees, but of friends, colleagues, staff, a cook from the Desert Inn's second year, a janitor who once helped him fix a broken radiator during a storm. Those are the faces he saved, and they saved him, because through it all, bootlegging, Cleveland, Vegas, Mo Dalitz never believed in being feared. He believed in being useful. One late evening, as the Strip glows brighter than ever and fireworks from a hotel grand opening crackle overhead, Mo sits on his porch, watching the sky. A friend beside him asks, "You ever miss the old days?" He exhales, thinks, then says, "The old days were stairs. I'm glad we built an elevator." It's not nostalgia, it's context. Because Mo Dalitz didn't just ride the rise of Vegas. He stepped aside to hold the door open. By 1970, Las Vegas has grown so big it no longer needs to introduce itself. It's a brand now, an electric dream stamped across postcards, a punchline in late-night monologues, a destination where fortunes are both made and mistaken. It breathes differently, more confident, more corporate, but still pulsing with the same rhythm Mo Dalitz helped engineer decades ago. And he's still here, quieter than ever, but unmistakably present. His name doesn't top the guest lists. It slips through them, in invitations addressed simply to Mr. Dalitz, accompanied by a handwritten note or a quiet whisper passed from one hand to another. Because while Vegas gets louder, Mo becomes softer, more reflective. He walks the strip early in the mornings now, when the sidewalks are still damp from the night's cleaning crews and the marquees are blinking off one by one. A city hung over in neon and silence. He knows the bones of it. Every alley, every mistake, every lesson built into the grout beneath the glamour. And yet he never looks back with regret. The city has changed, so has he. Mo spends more time with his notebooks, pages and pages filled with observations, not grand insights, just patterns, names of young people to watch, intersections where traffic backs up and needs rezoning, rumors of which bank executives are looking to invest and which ones are bluffing, because in Mo's world, even whispers leave footprints. That year, he's invited to speak publicly for the first time in over a decade. A local college hosts a panel on the founding figures of Las Vegas. Historians, developers, journalists. He declines the formal stage, but he agrees to a private Q&A with the students afterward. They ask the expected questions. Did you work with the mob? What was your relationship with Hoffa? Was the Desert Inn really built with pension money? Mo smiles, takes a sip of water, then says, I worked with people who built things. Call them what you like. It's not an evasion, it's an economy of truth. Many people still think Mo Dalitz only survived by keeping secrets. But so what do you think? Could a man stay relevant in a city built on spectacle just by hiding? Or was he simply the one who never confused attention with influence? Because Mo never needed applause. He just needed the door to stay unlocked. He continues supporting civic projects, funds a new health clinic on the west side, helps expand an educational grant for hotel service workers' children, sends Christmas gifts, small, handwritten, personally wrapped, to a dozen janitors who've worked strip floors longer than some executives have held licenses, not out of guilt, but out of gratitude. One evening, during a city planning dinner, someone proposes a statue, a public monument to the unsung builders of Las Vegas. Mo clears his throat. The room stills. If the builders are unsung, he says gently, maybe we let their work speak instead. The proposal dies politely. And yet, months later, a new city park opens near an old neighborhood he helped develop. There's no statue, but a bench is engraved with the words, for those who built in silence. He walks by it often, never sits, because Mo is still in motion. Even now, he's managing the handoff, helping younger leaders step into spaces once occupied by ghosts. He doesn't give them rules. He gives them questions. What does it cost to be first? What happens when the shine wears off? Who still answers your calls when the lights go out? And they listen, because Mo doesn't demand legacy. He demonstrates it. At the Las Vegas Country Club, there's a table unofficially reserved for him. The waitstaff know his order before he arrives. Once, a visiting businessman insists on sitting there. The staff oblige. Rules are rules. But halfway through his lunch, a man approaches, leans down, and whispers something brief. The businessman apologizes, leaves a big tip, and moves 2 tables over. No threats, no confrontation. Just the quiet gravity of a man who never needed to be introduced. The word retirement drifts near Mo, but never quite lands. He works less, yes, sleeps more. But every day has purpose. Whether it's reviewing building plans, responding to letters, or attending a lunch no one knows is strategic, he remains part of the mechanism. And in this stage of life, something shifts. He starts reflecting, not out of ego, but out of responsibility. Begins writing down not just dates and deals, but philosophies, principles, things no ledger could ever record. One of the entries reads, "You don't outsmart the world, you outlast its assumptions." Another, "A favor given freely is a thread you can pull later or leave untouched." And finally, "If you're remembered, let it be for what stayed standing," because in the end, Mo Dalitz didn't build Vegas alone, but he built the parts that lasted. The lights across the strip begin to dim, not all at once, but in waves, softly, like a city exhaling. Neon signs flicker and sigh. Showroom doors close quietly. Somewhere, a valet hums to himself as he folds the last claim ticket of the night. In a quiet home just past the city limits, Mo Dalitz sets his pen down. The paper is full of notes that won't make the papers, ideas that won't win awards. But they matter. Because behind every note is a lesson, and behind every lesson, a lifetime of watching what others missed. He walks slowly to the window, the city twinkling beneath him like a second sky. Vegas never really sleeps, but it does settle. And so does he. Outside, the desert breathes. A breeze curls past the rocks, cool and thin. In the distance, headlights crawl along the freeway like tiny, glowing promises, reminders that someone's always arriving, someone's always leaving. And somewhere beneath all that brightness, there are still quiet hands keeping things running, replacing bulbs, checking balances, ensuring that tomorrow, this strange, luminous city can start all over again, because that's the real magic, not the lights, but the people who tend them. And as Mo closes the curtain, his final thought drifts soft as a whisper. Let it keep glowing, quietly, properly, endlessly. The 1970s dawn with a different kind of heat. The sun still sears the desert, but now it's the pressure from inside that worries people. The city's foundations, political and otherwise, begin to shift. Las Vegas is growing faster than its infrastructure can accommodate. The streets are clogged, the water tables run thinner each year, and the corporations, those faceless shareholders in faraway towers, are demanding higher returns at faster speeds. But Mo Dalitz isn't panicking. He's adjusting. He watches the change with the same expression he's used for 50 years, mildly amused, quietly assessing, always listening. He no longer walks the strip every week, but he still rides through it. In the back seat of a modest black sedan, window cracked, he watches as old landmarks vanish. A few hotels close. New ones rise, built with more chrome than character, more height than history. It's progress, yes, but not always improvement. Still, Mo offers no resistance. He just notes the difference. That year, he begins hosting more private dinners, not formal affairs, but curated gatherings, 4 to 6 guests, a mixture of old contacts and younger players, developers, bankers, 1 or 2 city planners who've never held a poker chip in their life. The location is always the same. A quiet private room off the main dining hall at the Las Vegas Country Club. White linen, simple menus, low lighting, and while the guests talk profits and projects, Mo steers the conversation toward something else. Consequences. What happens if this block becomes a bottleneck? What if we lose tourism during a gas crisis? What's your plan when the headlines stop writing themselves? It's not pessimism, it's preparation. Because Mo's always been a builder, but he's never built anything he didn't also know how to reinforce. That spring, a proposal surfaces to name a new civic auditorium after him. It makes it to committee, passes with minimal objection. The press drafts a short announcement. Mo declines, not out of humility but strategy. There's too much still to do, he says. Don't name things after me while I'm still adjusting the plumbing. Instead, he offers to fund the auditorium's lighting system. Quietly, efficiently, on the condition that it uses local union labor and hires a crew chief from a list he provides. No statue, no speech, just brightness. Here's your historical anchor. By 1971, Mo Dalitz had become one of the most influential behind-the-scenes philanthropists in Nevada. He rarely appeared in public campaigns, but his checks, often unsigned publicly, appeared in hospitals, schools, and civic facilities across Clark County. One reporter catches wind and tries to piece together a story, tracks donations, connects names, starts to shape an expose. Then, 1 week before the article is set to publish, the reporter receives a handwritten note, not threatening, just a single sentence. Some cities are kept standing by men you never quote. The article never runs. Many people still think Mo was protected by fear. But so what do you think? Could a man build this much stability for this long on intimidation alone? Or is it more likely he just knew which wires kept the lights from flickering? Mo begins thinking about legacy in new terms. Not property, people. He establishes a private foundation, not under his name. It funds college tuition for the children of longtime service workers in the city. Cooks, porters, maids. The invisible hands that keep Vegas running. There's no website, no gala, just a mailbox with outgoing envelopes and a team of 2 women, both former casino secretaries, who manage the list with surgical discretion. One of them once asks, "Why don't you want credit?" And Mo replies, "Because credit comes with curiosity. Besides, he's never wanted to be famous. He just wanted the elevator to work." That autumn, he begins writing again. Not ledgers this time, but reflections. Short passages, sometimes a paragraph, sometimes a line. They're found years later, stored in a leather-bound ledger filed between insurance policies. One page simply reads, "Everyone wants to be remembered. The wise prefer to be continued." It's in that spirit that he begins identifying his unofficial successors, not heirs, custodians. He takes quiet meetings with 3 people that fall. A woman who manages traffic flow studies for the city, a quiet hotel manager who handles staff turnover with eerie efficiency, a young councilman who once told a reporter, "Las Vegas doesn't need to be louder, it needs to be smarter." To each, Mo offers the same thing. Not money, not power, but access. "Call this number when you need a favor," he says. But only if the favor helps someone else. They understand, because by now, the story of Mo Dalitz isn't about what he built. It's about what he made possible, and that kind of influence doesn't appear on brochures. It lingers in decisions no one remembers how to trace. The Las Vegas skyline doesn't rise, it shimmers upward. By 1972, the towers are taller, the signage louder, and the money bigger. But for Mo Dalitz, now in his early 70s, the city doesn't feel larger. It just feels faster. Faster deals, faster construction, faster turnover. Names appear on hotel plaques and disappear before the grout dries. CEOs are swapped like playing cards. Investment groups flash in and out of town, their meetings scheduled between steak dinners and tea times. But Mo moves at the same speed he always has, deliberately, precisely, with a full awareness of every step. And that's why he still matters. He may not own the newest casino or sit on the most powerful board, but when someone doesn't know what to do next, they ask, "What would Mo suggest?" And someone always knows how to reach him. He's started mentoring in earnest now, not officially, not with titles or plaques, just quiet walks and handwritten notes passed across desks. His circle includes city engineers, logistics experts, urban development consultants. Some of them didn't even know who Mo was a year ago, but they know now because when they need something done right, and not just done, they find him. One such protege is a young architect working on a project for a new family-friendly resort. The plans are good. Maybe too good. Too modern. Too slick. The layout forgets that families walk with strollers, that hallways echo, that buffet lines need breaks in sight lines to avoid stress. Mo spends half a day with the blueprints, says nothing at first, then points to a corridor on the second floor and says, "This will back up during check-in. Widen it here." The architect nods, scribbles, then asks, "How do you see that?" Mo shrugs. "I walked that hallway 100 times before it existed." That's Mo in a sentence. A man who remembers the future before it happens. He no longer wears the sharpest suits, but they're always clean, crisp, still the same shade of gray, neutral, serious, forgettable to most, but not to those who know. His wardrobe is a kind of armor, predictable, disarming, practical. He often spends his afternoons at the Las Vegas Country Club, not golfing, but reading, reports, news briefs, community bulletins. He highlights with a red pencil, old school, and folds the corners of pages he thinks someone else should read. Then he mails those clippings, sometimes anonymously, because Mo doesn't need credit. He needs corrections. That year, the city begins to discuss a new freeway bypass. It'll reshape traffic around the strip. Most see it as a win. But Mo catches something subtle in the early planning diagrams. A potential bottleneck that would back up traffic near the service entrance of 4 major resorts. He makes 1 call, then 2. By the end of the month, the blueprint is revised. No press release, no thank you, just progress. Many people still think Mo Dalitz was fading by this time, that his silence meant irrelevance. But so what do you think? Could a man who reshaped cities with phone calls really be counted out just because he didn't show up on the news? Because Mo was never part of the news cycle. He was part of the operating system, and systems don't retire. They're either maintained or forgotten. He ensures he'll be the former. In private moments, Mo begins organizing his papers. Not for vanity, but for function. He separates notes into categories: land use, workforce strategy, crime reduction, philanthropy. He knows someone will need this one day. Someone will be too young to remember, he tells his secretary, but smart enough to ask. And he wants to leave answers. He even labels a folder, emergencies that feel like decisions. Inside, notes on supply chain disruptions, staff retention ideas, and a 3-step memo on what to do when local tax law changes without notice. Because that's the kind of thing Mo leaves behind. Not memoirs, manuals. He still dines once a week at the Desert Inn. The maitre d' greets him like royalty, even if the new owners don't always recognize him. That's fine. He doesn't need the red carpet. Just a table near the back and a slice of the lemon tart that's been on the menu longer than most guests have been alive. One night, a tourist couple walks by and asks if he's the casino host. He smiles and says something like that. And maybe it's true, because Mo Dalitz never needed a title. The whole city was his business card. That summer, a small local newspaper runs a retrospective on Vegas pioneers. Mo is mentioned in 2 paragraphs. Bootlegging, Desert Inn, quiet philanthropy. Nothing scandalous, nothing deep. When someone shows it to him, he folds the paper carefully and says, "They got the spelling right. That's what matters." He pauses. "Also, I never bootlegged. I redistributed during a miscommunication." He smiles. The room laughs. And for a moment, he looks exactly like what he is. A man who survived history not by dodging it, but by designing where it landed. As the sun sets that evening, the strip lights up in its usual fanfare. Cars crawl along Las Vegas Boulevard. Showgirls pose for tips near fountains. Headliners take the stage, and in a room just far enough away to avoid the noise, Mo Dalitz reviews a city permit application and makes a note in red pencil. Add loading access on the west side. The trucks will need room. Because even now, especially now, he's still thinking about tomorrow. By 1973, the city pulses with a rhythm that never falters. Glamour on the outside, machinery underneath. And no one understands that machinery better than Mo Dalitz. He's not at the center anymore, but he's always adjacent. A step to the left of the boardroom, a few chairs down from the city council, a nod away from the man who actually signs the papers. His presence is like gravity, invisible, but undeniable. And this year, gravity becomes more important than ever. The economy tightens. Inflation creeps in. Gas prices surge. Tourism dips. People come to Vegas with less in their wallets and more in their worries. Shows don't sell out. Casino floors thin. Hotel suites stay empty a little too long. But Mo doesn't panic. He plans. He knows Vegas isn't just a city, it's a mood. And moods need managing. So he makes calls. Helps coordinate events that offer more value. Cheaper family packages. Dinner and show combos. He arranges for quiet loans to struggling managers. Bridge money, not bailouts. And always off the books. One hotelier tells him, "It's like you knew this was coming." And Mo simply says, "It always comes." The trick is to build for the dip, not the spike. That's why his properties hold steady. His contacts stay solvent. While others cut staff and scramble, Mo's people keep the lights on. Because Mo never played for the weekend. He played for the next quarter century. He begins a series of private workshops, off-the-record gatherings in unassuming meeting rooms. They cover logistics, disaster scenarios, economic stress testing. Not flashy, just functional. One attendee, a young hospitality exec, remarks, "This feels like a war room." Mo nods. Vegas always is. Just depends who you're fighting this year. Greed, luck, or overhead. Here's your historical fact. In 1973, several Vegas properties saw dramatic shortfalls in revenue due to national economic instability. While others struggled, Dalitz-backed ventures weathered the downturn with minimal loss, thanks to long-term contingency plans, diversified investment, and careful operational buffers. But those weren't the only buffers Mo built. He begins shifting more philanthropic energy toward resilience, funds local food banks, launches quiet support systems for casino employees impacted by reduced hours, pays utility bills for some retired workers who once kept the halls of the Desert Inn gleaming. No press releases, just envelopes. Many people still think philanthropy was his PR shield. But so what do you think? Could a man spend decades funneling private capital into public welfare just for a headline that never ran? Because Mo wasn't trying to be forgiven. He was trying to make the city survivable. And survival, he's learned, isn't about bravado. It's about infrastructure. At home, his study becomes a quieter place. Less business now, more memory. He opens old ledgers, not to audit, but to remember. Not numbers, people. The bartender, who once broke up a fight before it made the news. The contractor who rebuilt an entire foundation under budget. The valet who covered for a manager's absence and kept everything running for 12 hours straight without a word of complaint. He writes their names down, starts a file titled The Quiet Ones. Each entry contains notes, some short, some detailed, none of them asked for recognition. And that's why they deserve it. At the same time, Mo begins preparing for what he calls the quiet handoff. Not to one person, but to a philosophy. He creates binders, dozens of them, color-coded. not labeled with titles like strategy or finance, but with practical names. If there's a fire, if the Teamsters call, if the market dips, if you lose a night manager. Inside each binder, steps, contacts, options, notes in his spidery script like, "Talk to Lucy before you panic. She's calmer than most accountants." Or, "The ice machine isn't broken. The valve behind it clogs. Tell Sal." Because to Mo, leadership isn't about vision statements. It's about knowing where the wrench is kept. He shares these binders selectively, slips them into the hands of people who don't realize they're next in line. And when they ask why Mo smiles and says, "Because you didn't ask for it." He still walks. Less distance now, more pauses. Each step measured, each breath deeper. His doctor mentions rest. Mo nods. Rest is useful, but not today. There's still too much noise in the system. And Mo has one final project underway. A public archive. Not for the glory days. Not for the scandals. For the city's structure. He hires researchers. Collects permits. Early construction plans. Old zoning maps. Wants to make sure that when someone asks, "How did this get built?" the answer exists somewhere. Clearly. Honestly. He doesn't care if his name's attached. He just wants accuracy. Because as he told a young city council member, legends entertain, ledgers explain, and Mo Dalitz always favored the ledger. That winter, as lights blink across the strip and the city rallies to claw its way back from economic dip, Mo sits on his porch, sipping warm tea. He watches a group of workers fix a streetlight down the block. They're fast, efficient. He nods. The system holds, not because it's flashy, but because someone remembered to leave the tools behind. By 1974, Las Vegas no longer resembles the dusty outpost Mo Dalitz first saw in the late 40s. It has become a city of symbols, tall, flashing, and overconfident. The mobsters have mostly faded into whispers. The new players wear cufflinks and hold conference calls. Everything is managed through committees now, and the strip pulses more like a spreadsheet than a roulette wheel. But some people still remember who set the table before the banquet began. And Mo? He's still here, watching, suggesting, adjusting. He no longer moves with speed, but with certainty. Every step deliberate, every handshake meaningful, every comment quietly loaded with decades of trial and arithmetic. That year, a scandal erupts across several casinos. Nothing violent, just a series of suspicious audits, questionable expense accounts, a few board members with less than clean paperwork. The headlines are messy, the public embarrassed, investors jittery, and in a back booth at the Desert Inn, Mo Dalitz takes 2 meetings in one afternoon. The first is with a nervous executive who fumbles through a manila folder of financial irregularities, half expecting judgment. Mo says nothing for a long time, then closes the folder and says, "You didn't do this. You allowed it." The second meeting is shorter. Mo hands the folder to a retired accountant who once handled books for 4 different casinos without a single missing dime. "I need you to put this back in order," Mo says, and that's how the mess begins to quietly resolve. Not through subpoenas, but through alignment, because Mo doesn't clean up problems. He repositions them. This is his strength now. Not control, but influence of inertia. He doesn't pull the strings. He adjusts the floorboards. Here's your historical fact. In 1974, amid increasing pressure from federal regulatory bodies and tightening controls from the Nevada Gaming Commission, several older casinos survived only by restructuring under guidance from seasoned veterans like Dalitz, who understood not just how to avoid collapse, but how to redirect gravity. He helps a struggling operator negotiate with the Teamsters, not by making demands, but by reminding them that pension funds mean nothing if the buildings go dark. He connects an overextended hotelier with a local construction firm to delay expansion and preserve cash. A smaller roof that doesn't leak is better than a tower full of holes, he says. And when one young vice president tries to impress him with a flashy new business model, Mo simply asks, "And what's your contingency when it rains during the fourth quarter?" There's no answer, so Mo leaves him with a binder, because he always brings binders. Many people still think he clung to the past, that he spent his later years trying to keep Vegas the way it used to be. But so what do you think? Could a man who funded educational programs, trained modern hotel managers, and met weekly with transportation analysts really be trying to go backward? Mo wasn't preserving the old Vegas. He was future-proofing the real one. That summer, he begins a habit of sitting with retirees, former croupiers, engineers, kitchen staff. He listens to their stories, collects their suggestions, sends their ideas to people who can implement them. One of them tells him, "I thought you forgot about us." Mo replies, "I don't forget gears. They keep the machine honest." He also starts walking the edges of the city again, places where new neighborhoods are forming. He visits construction sites and notes how the city expands like a fractal, branching into the heat. He recommends tree planting initiatives, backs local parks, helps fund shaded bus stops. Not flashy work, just important. And in the late evenings, when the streets calm and the hotels exhale, Mo returns home and updates a folder titled "Continuity When I'm Not Around." It's not a will, it's a system. Inside are timelines, names, possible reactions to possible scenarios. One page says, "If there's a scandal, don't deny, correct early. Trust is cheaper than defense." Another reads, "Keep a kitchen employee on every executive floor." Not for service, for perspective. And finally, "Don't forget the ones who sweep. They hear what gets dropped." That's Mo's legacy. Not drama, not myth, but method. One evening, a former showgirl, now a mother of 3 and a hotel operations supervisor, sends Mo a letter thanking him for a scholarship he approved years ago without ever meeting her. She signs off with, "You were never in my spotlight, but you turned it on." He reads it twice, folds it neatly, adds it to the folder, because he doesn't need applause. He needs evidence that the engine runs. Later that fall, a reporter corners him at a fundraiser and asks, "Mr. Dalitz, do you think the city's outgrown you?" Mo adjusts his cuff, smiles softly, and says, "If it runs well without me, then I've done something right." And then he turns, leaving the microphone behind, heading into a kitchen to check if the coffee machine's been recalibrated. It has. He made sure last week, because Mo Dalitz never led from the podium. He led from the service entrance. The strip is louder now, brighter, faster, and noisier in every way. It's 1975, and Las Vegas has grown into something that even Mo Dalitz couldn't have fully predicted. A spectacle calibrated for the television age. Helicopter billboards float over golf courses. Magazine covers show celebrities wrapped in casino-branded robes. Everything sparkles, even the shadows. But Mo doesn't sparkle. He endures. And that's exactly what makes him matter more than ever. He doesn't compete with the spectacle. He walks through it like a man moving behind the stage curtain. The players have changed. The stakes have grown. But the mechanics, they're still the same. And Mo still knows where every hinge creaks and where every wire hums. This year, a new convention center opens with fanfare and champagne. It's clean, high-ceilinged, and full of ambition. The mayor gives a speech. A senator cuts the ribbon. Television cameras roll. Mo Dalitz is not in the footage. But if you check the city ledger, you'll see the engineering consultant who laid out the floor plan once took an anonymous loan to cover payroll in 1962. The paving company who laid the parking lot received Mo's signature on a zoning waiver last year. He never appears in the story, but he's always between the lines. He begins working more closely with UNLV now. Not publicly, just hallway conversations, quiet scholarships, Occasional guest visits to urban planning lectures under the name M.D. Lewis. He prefers to hear questions from students before they learn who he is. One asks, "What's the hardest part about building a city like Vegas?" Mo answers, "Convincing people that the plumbing matters more than the chandelier." The class laughs. He doesn't, because he's serious and right. He's also updating his binders. Again, some are worn from use. Others revised entirely. He adds new sections: digital systems, corporate partnerships, emerging hospitality trends. He reads business journals cover to cover. Not for pleasure, for defense, because Vegas never stops changing, and neither does Mo. Here's your historical touchstone. By the mid-1970s, Las Vegas was transitioning fully into the corporate era. Gaming licenses, once connected to handshake deals and whispered alliances, now required SEC filings and boardroom approval. It was no longer enough to know the right people. You had to impress their attorneys. Many people still think Mo Dalitz became irrelevant in this new climate. But so, what do you think? Could a man fluent in labor unions, land zoning, and legacy design really be replaced by a quarterly report? Mo wasn't outdated. He was upstream, and in 1975, upstream thinkers are rare. He receives an offer that spring, quiet but serious. A consortium from the East Coast wants him on retainer. As a consultant. Big money. Bigger exposure. Mo declines, not because he's modest, because he knows this game isn't about expansion. It's about root systems, and his are already deep enough. That summer, he launches a neighborhood improvement initiative disguised as a utility rebate program. It targets neglected parts of the city, places that helped build Vegas, but were forgotten when the marquees got bigger. Mo arranges discounts on repairs, partners with tradespeople, and sends city inspectors in before complaints are filed. A local journalist tries to run a profile on the program, searching for its source. She tracks the funding back to a series of firms, each one clean, low profile, and legally sound. When she finally reaches Mo, she asks if it was him. He says, "Maybe." Or maybe the city just remembered itself for a moment. She never runs the story. She just writes him a thank you note. He tucks it into the binder labeled side entrances, because Mo always knew that the most honest doors were the ones no one noticed. One evening, as the lights of the Strip glow a little too bright, he sits outside the Desert Inn with a longtime friend, a man who once ran union negotiations for 3 hotels without raising his voice once. They talk about how the city feels faster now, more temporary, less rooted. Mo looks out across the glittering skyline and says, "It'll survive, but only if someone keeps a map of where the pipes are buried." That's what he's doing now, mapping the unseen. He meets quietly with local officials, offering logistical advice on emergency response plans, waste management routes, parking infrastructure. These aren't glamorous roles, but they're critical. He doesn't ask for recognition, just action. And they deliver, because even the new generation knows, if Mo Dalitz calls, you listen. He also begins a quiet handoff of his charitable programs. Not all at once. He never does anything all at once, just step by step. Transferring account access, assigning approval roles, leaving notes on who to trust, who to watch, and who will figure it out once they're under pressure. He writes one final note to his inner circle that year. It reads, "Make fewer speeches, write more checks, sit in the second row, ask how many shifts it takes to change a hallway light. If they don't know, don't fund them." That's his philosophy. That's his instruction manual. Late that year, he walks the halls of the Desert Inn one more time. Fewer people recognize him now. Some mistake him for an old accountant. One young manager hands him a clipboard, assuming he's from maintenance. Mo signs the form, nods, smiles, because legacy isn't being remembered. It's being useful even when you're mistaken. And in that moment, Mo Dalitz is exactly what he's always been, the right man in the wrong spotlight. By 1976, America turns 200 years old. Fireworks blaze from coast to coast, patriotism is printed on t-shirts, and cities throw parades like they're trying to remind themselves they still remember how. And in Las Vegas, everything red, white, and blue comes with sequins. The bicentennial brings tourists in droves. The casinos are ready, the showrooms fully booked, and patriotic specials light up the marquees. Elvis does his set wearing a star-spangled cape. Slot machines are wrapped in stripes, and through all the noise, Mo Dalitz watches, half amused, half focused, because the world is busy celebrating history, and Mo is still guarding it. He moves slower now. Age settles on his joints like dust on old ledgers, but he's no less sharp. His thoughts are crisp, his questions even more pointed, and his influence, though subtle, seems to ripple louder than ever before. This year, he's asked to speak, again, for a centennial project honoring Nevada's greatest builders. He declines, of course, but he helps fund the exhibit anyway, sends a letter correcting one of the timelines, adds a photograph from his private archive, one taken in 1950 during the Desert Inn's earliest construction phase. He includes no caption. He doesn't need one, because some contributions aren't statements. They're anchors. He's more deliberate with his time now. His calendar is filled with short meetings, shorter walks, and careful dictation of old records. He begins organizing a final round of files, the if-then folders, if the city changes zoning laws, if tourism dips again, if the water restrictions tighten. Each folder contains not just steps, but philosophies. For instance, if taxes increase, reduce luxury, not wages. The guests won't notice, but your staff will remember. Or, if a manager quits during peak hours, promote the quietest busser for one night. You'll know by morning if you found your next leader. That's Mo's genius, not the systems, the intuition behind them. Here's your historical insight. In 1976, while Vegas basked in record-breaking tourism and the glow of national pride, Mo Dalitz was quietly meeting with city engineers to discuss a 5-year outlook on traffic density, water access, and tourism spillover into Henderson and North Las Vegas. Most businessmen celebrated the moment. Mo invested in its aftermath. Because celebration is brief, stability is design. Many people still think he stayed involved for ego, that he couldn't let go. But so what do you think? Could a man really spend decades building structures designed to last after him if all he wanted was applause? Mo Dalitz didn't stay because he needed the city. He stayed because he remembered how fragile it once was. That summer, he begins a small private project, an annotated map of Las Vegas. Not for tourists, not for sale. Just a quiet document for future planners. He marks where the old Union trucks used to park, where the pipes were laid wrong in '58, which buildings had wiring quirks, where the best views of the valley still exist, before new towers block them out. It's not a map of streets, it's a map of decisions. He calls it jokingly the blueprint for ghosts, and he gives one copy to a city archivist who's still in her 20s. Why me? She asks. Because you don't talk too much in meetings, Mo replies. He still visits the Desert Inn, still has his table. The staff has changed, most of them younger now. One host calls him Mr. Lewis and asks if he wants to sign up for the membership rewards program. Mo smiles and declines. Later that night, the manager notices the name on the reservation book and turns pale. He doesn't say anything. He just walks over, refills Mo's coffee himself, and says, "Thanks for all of it." Mo nods, says nothing, because at this point, there's nothing left to say. Not that hasn't already been said in bricks and budgets and balance sheets. He spends more time looking out windows these days, especially at night, when the lights glitter and the shadows lengthen. He watches the monorail, the traffic, the The spinning casino signs that never quite stop. Sometimes a former associate will call, just to talk, share an old memory, ask a question. Do you remember when we had to bribe the plumber to work during a heat wave? Mo chuckles. We didn't bribe him. We gave him a raise labeled urgency fee. They both laugh, because that's how Mo always won, by reframing reality with calm hands. As fall arrives, he begins writing one last document, not for the city, not even for his successors, just for himself. A list, one column, what I know now. Showmanship sells, but consistency keeps the lights on. The best deal is the one where everyone leaves with something. Memory is infrastructure. Keep good records. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room, just the quietest one with a plan. Trust people with clean hands and tired eyes. When in doubt, tip more than you need to, and ask the janitor what's really broken. He never finishes the list. He just adds to it slowly as the days grow colder and the city grows faster, because Mo Dalitz isn't chasing legacy anymore. He's living proof that it works. It's 1977 now, and the desert winds are sharper, just a bit. Tourists don't feel it, but Mo Dalitz does. He feels it in the shift of power dynamics, in the tone of the city council minutes, in the way the casino lobbies feel more like polished airports than dens of chance. The sparkle is still there, but the edges have softened, and Mo, as always, is watching from the perimeter, not because he's been pushed out, but because he chose to move to higher ground. He attends fewer public functions. No more ribbon cuttings, no more handshakes with mayors on golf courses. But people still find him, in quiet restaurants, on benches outside the country club, in second-floor offices with dusty ceiling fans and well-worn rugs, and they come with questions. What's the next growth corridor? Do we trust this new developer? Should I sell my land now or wait? Mo listens, nods, often says nothing at first, then gives an answer that sounds more like a riddle than advice. Don't build where the water hesitates. Or, if they promise too quickly, ask for a delay. Because Mo doesn't hand out blueprints anymore. He hands out principles, and those are harder to copy. This year, he finishes the last round of succession handoffs. His charitable foundation, his housing initiative, even his logistics files, each one now sits in the hands of people he trusts. People who still call him, but no longer need him. And that's the point. He spends more time in the neighborhoods now, the ones that tourists never see, the ones where valets raise their kids and blackjack dealers buy groceries. He walks slowly through streets he helped fund years ago. Small parks, elementary schools with fresh paint, a bus stop with a plaque that reads, "Donated by a friend of the city." No name, just that. He stops and touches the plaque every time he walks by. Not because he needs the recognition, but because it reminds him the city remembered to care. Here's your historical footnote. By 1977, Dalitz had almost no formal holdings in the Vegas casino world, but he was involved in dozens of civic and real estate projects across Clark County, often as an informal advisor or silent backer. His influence was woven into everything from water management to workforce housing. One reporter wrote that year, "No one sees Mo Dalitz, but everyone in Vegas still walks in his shadow." The article was never published. Mo asked them not to, politely, and they agreed, because even reporters know when they're sitting across from someone who doesn't need press to prove a point. Many people still think his silence was strategy, that he stayed quiet to avoid legal trouble. But so, what do you think? Could a man so deeply committed to systems, people, and service really be hiding? Or was he just showing us how legacy works best when it doesn't announce itself? That fall, a young city intern stumbles into a meeting with Mo at a community planning event. Nervous, stammering, the intern asks, "Mr. Dalitz, what's the best way to get the city to listen?" Mo hands him a folded piece of paper. On it, one sentence, "Fix something no one else is looking at." Weeks later, the intern proposes a city waste bin redesign that reduces maintenance costs by 18%. He never forgets who gave him that advice. That's how Mo teaches now. Not with lectures, with nudges. That year, he also begins preparing one final archive. Not of history, not of finance, of people. A binder simply labeled, "They built this." Inside, pages of names, hundreds of them. Porters, engineers, waitresses, bricklayers, bookkeepers. Some are long retired, a few have passed on. Most would never expect to be remembered, but Mo remembers, and for each name a note. Repaired the kitchen freezer during a blackout, saved the entire weekend, stayed 3 extra shifts to cover when flu hit the staff. Was never late, not once, not even in 1957 when her car broke down. He arranges for this binder to be stored in the city archives with instructions. Do not display, just keep quietly. Because history isn't always meant to be celebrated. Sometimes it's meant to be respected. He still dines at the Desert Inn every now and then. They no longer offer him the best table. Not because they've forgotten, but because Mo asks for the one near the kitchen. He likes to see the staff, likes to nod to the people who keep the plates warm and the glasses clean. One night, a young hostess notices the regular attention he gives to the busboys. She asks, "Did you used to work back there?" Mo replies, "I still do. Just from the front." She laughs, not quite understanding, but she will, one day. Late that year, a small electrical failure hits the eastern side of the strip. A transformer blows. Lights go out in 3 casinos. Chaos nearly erupts. But within 20 minutes, a backup plan is executed. A system Mo helped design back in the early 60s. Most don't even know it was his, but a few do, and one of them sends him a note the next morning. It still works, just like you said. Mo reads it, folds it, files it in a drawer labeled reassurance, because for a man who never needed applause, sometimes it's still nice to know the lights stayed on. By 1978, the skyline of Las Vegas seems to shimmer with a different sort of tension. The neon is brighter than ever, but the city feels heavier, like it's aware of its own momentum. Too large to stop, too busy to notice where it came from. New towers go up almost monthly. Developers speak in language full of ambition, but thin on memory, and Mo Dalitz, now older, slower, quieter than ever, is still here, watching it all with a gaze that doesn't blink. He rarely attends city meetings in person anymore, but his comments are still read aloud, his notes still passed from desk to desk in City Hall. If he marks something with a red pencil, people stop to recheck their plans. Because no matter how digital the city becomes, some edits are best done in the margins. This year, a high-rise proposal threatens to block out an old neighborhood park Mo helped fund 2 decades earlier. No one notices. The new planners call it unused land. The public comment period is short, until Mo calls a man he hasn't spoken to in years. A quiet environmental consultant turned zoning analyst. He doesn't shout, doesn't argue. He just says, "Some shadows don't fall on buildings. They fall on children." The proposal stalls. Revisions are made. The park stays. And no one knows why, except a handful of people who still understand how the city works. Not just in the contracts, but in the conscience. This year, he spends more time alone. By choice. His house is quiet. His days are structured. Morning walks through the side streets. Afternoon calls. Evenings reviewing ledgers and letters. He's begun collecting not just names, but lessons. In a small, leather-bound book labeled Reminders, he jots things down that future leaders might forget. Never trust a contractor who insists on being early. Double-check the water bill during heat waves. Listen to the security guard. He sees more than the cameras. It reads like a manual for building a city by watching it breathe. And in many ways, that's what Mo has always done. Observed patterns, anticipated cracks, and responded without drama. Here's your historical fact. In 1978, Las Vegas issued a record number of commercial permits. Most of them passed through the hands of review boards that still contained, somewhere behind the curtain, Mo Dalitz's fingerprints, either in influence, funding, or architectural precedent. And yet, his name barely appeared because Mo never wanted to be famous. He wanted to be necessary. Many people still think Mo was obsessed with control. But so what do you think? Could a man who handed away every piece of his legacy, deliberately, carefully, methodically, really be chasing power? Or was he simply making sure the engine stayed greased long after he stopped holding the wrench? Late that summer, he receives a visitor. A new hospitality executive in her 30s, excited, bright, slightly overwhelmed. She's been told to talk to Mo before launching a new management training initiative. She arrives with charts and buzzwords. He listens, then says, "Do your managers know the names of their janitors?" She pauses. No. Mo leans forward. "Then you don't need a program. You need a mirror." She writes it down. She changes everything. That's how Mo teaches now. Not by handing out wisdom, but by holding up reflections. He no longer stays up late. His body needs rest now in ways it never did before. But before bed, he always walks to the back room of his house, the one with the filing cabinets and the dim lamp, and opens a drawer labeled "Still Active." Inside are projects not yet finished. One is a grant program for high schoolers pursuing trade work. Another is a request to move a bus stop closer to a low-income housing unit. Another, a draft of a simple proposal to ensure casino workers receive heat illness training every summer. None of these things will make headlines, but all of them might keep someone's life intact. That's legacy, Mo thinks. Not in what you build, but in what you preserve quietly. One evening, a city official calls to thank him for advice on a recent traffic reroute. The official says, "You're still the quiet North Star, you know." Mo replies, "Stars don't make noise. They just stay in place long enough for others to navigate." Then he hangs up and smiles, because being remembered doesn't matter to Mo. Being reliable does. And as autumn settles over Las Vegas, with cooler winds slipping between high-rises and marquees, Mo Dalitz walks once more through the halls of the Desert Inn. Not for nostalgia, not for show, just to make sure everything still runs the way it should. He adjusts a crooked portrait, leaves a note for the bell captain, tells a new floor manager that the carpet seam near the elevators always lifts after the 5th cleaning. No one asked him to, but no one stops him, because in a city built by dreamers and gamblers, sometimes it's the man who remembers where the fuse box is, who holds everything together. By 1979, the buzz around Las Vegas has a sharper edge. The corporate world is fully in control now. Hotel chains backed by multinationals, finance people with MBAs, rooms booked by algorithms rather than charm. The language changes too. Words like branding, synergy, and asset yield begin to take precedence over service, atmosphere, and experience. But Mo Dalitz doesn't flinch, because he's seen this before, in different clothes with different words. Just another phase, and he knows. Phases pass. Foundations remain. At 77 years old, he no longer walks as far or as often. But every movement is intentional. His mornings are still reserved for the local paper, 2 phone calls, always the same 2, and a short walk outside. He no longer visits the Strip at night. It's too loud, too fast, but he still studies it from a distance, like an engineer watches a bridge sway in the wind. This year, a chain of upscale resorts begins building a massive new property at the edge of town. The brochures are sleek, the renderings futuristic. The project managers speak in confidence. Too much confidence. Mo is asked quietly to review the infrastructure proposal. He spends an evening with the documents, a pot of weak tea, and a pencil. In the margin of a blueprint, he writes, "There's no water access on this elevation. Either they know and are ignoring it, or they don't know and should be stopped." He sends that back. The project is halted within weeks. No press release, no scandal, just silence. Because when Mo speaks, even now, the city listens. Here's your historical anchor. In 1979, multiple large-scale development projects were paused or re-evaluated due to environmental and infrastructure constraints, often after pressure from unnamed consultants. Local lore points to Dalitz's quiet interventions on several such occasions, and yet no one quotes him. He doesn't want them to, because Mo doesn't leave fingerprints. He leaves pressure points. He spends much of this year preparing the final version of what he calls the archive, a simple 3-box collection of binders, notes, maps, and letters. Not just a record of his life, but of the lives he helped shape. Doormen, housekeepers, carpenters, cab drivers. People who built the daily rhythm of Las Vegas. Inside one binder is a list of small corrections to the public history. The lights at the Desert Inn were first flipped on by Maria Delgado, not the contractor. She insisted on testing the switch herself. The original carpeting was sourced from a local warehouse Mo found during a plumbing detour. It saved $14,000. The west parking lot is aligned to shade employees' cars, not guests. Each note is short, but rich. Because Mo knew the story wasn't his, it was theirs. Many people still think he only stayed active to protect his secrets. But so what do you think? Could a man who dedicated the last 10 years of his life to documenting the unseen work of others really be guarding skeletons? Or was he just trying to build a memory that doesn't fade under new wallpaper? That fall, Mo takes fewer calls. Instead, people come to him. They stop by quietly. Some bring cigars, others bring questions. One night, a former valet, now a father, a union leader, asks, "What do I tell the kids about you?" Mo smiles, shrugs. "Tell them I figured out where to put the light switches." The valet laughs, then stays for an hour, sipping coffee, listening, because Mo doesn't give speeches anymore. He just makes sure the coffee's hot when you arrive. He's still reading, still scribbling into the margins of the world. One night, he watches the city lights from his porch and writes, "It's too fast now, but the bones are still good." Then he circles it, adds, "The right bones matter. Everything else is just skin." And he would know, because he built the skeleton most people never see. By winter, the doctors suggest he take it easier. Less stress, less involvement. Mo nods, thanks them. Then hosts a 4-hour conversation with a group of city engineers about emergency drainage systems. Because rest is good, but redundancy planning is better. He begins giving away personal belongings. Not because he's sentimental, but because he wants things to land where they'll matter. His books go to a librarian who always waived overdue fines for casino workers. His ledgers go to a historian who once wrote an unpublished paper titled "Quiet Builders of the Nevada Economy." He keeps one thing for himself, a photo taken in 1951, just after the Desert Inn opened. Mo isn't in it, but the frame shows 10 staff members, cleaning crew, maintenance, groundskeepers, standing proudly at the service entrance, grinning. In the bottom corner, someone's written, "We opened first." Mo looks at it each night now, not to remember, to honor, because even as the lights get bigger, the profits larger, the machines more automated, he knows the truth. The city still runs on people. People like those 10. People like him. The ones who show up before the doors unlock and stay until everything hums. 1980 arrives quietly. No fireworks. No headlines. Just the sound of sprinklers ticking across lawns Mo Dalitz helped fund decades earlier. The air in Las Vegas is crisp and dry, and the skyline, taller than ever, casts long, thoughtful shadows across a city that barely remembers how young it really is. But Mo remembers. He always has. At 78 years old, he rises each day like he always has. Early, measured, alert. His legs may slow, but his mind still slices through complexity like a knife through layered cake. He reads the paper before breakfast, not just the front page, but zoning updates, water board notes, and obscure council meeting minutes most skip over, because that's where the city speaks its true language. And Mo never stopped listening. His routine has changed only slightly. Fewer errands, fewer favors, but his presence, it still hums, quietly, like an old engine that never lost its tune. People still call, still stop by. They still ask him how to fix things, not because he's powerful, but because he knows where the weak spots are. This year, a hotel merger threatens to displace hundreds of longtime staff members. The new owners want fresh faces, newer uniforms, tighter margins. They don't say replace, they say refresh. But Mo reads between the buzzwords. He calls one board member, asks to meet. They sit down at a local diner. Cheap coffee, no valet. Mo brings a single sheet of paper, listing turnover stats, guest complaint data, and a handwritten note. Loyalty isn't part of your rebranding deck, but it's why the elevators don't stall. The board reconsiders. A quiet compromise is struck. Dozens of jobs saved. No press. No announcements. Just dignity preserved in a backroom booth with chipped coffee cups. That's how Mo fights now. Not with threats, with facts whispered through a memory no one else kept alive. Here's your historical fact. In 1980, Las Vegas saw several hospitality ownership changes, many of which faced internal pushback due to labor instability. While Mo Dalitz had no formal role in those transitions, his name still surfaced, quietly, in conversations about balance, trust, and institutional memory. He spends more time near the edge of town now, watching how the city creeps outward. Housing developments rise where old trailer parks used to sit. Strip malls replace deserts. Everything gleams, but few people seem to remember what came before. One day, a young architect presents him with a proposal for a modern, modular casino hotel concept. Clean lines, chrome accents, no chandeliers, no fountains, just efficiency. Mo listens, then asks, "Where do the employees eat?" The architect blinks. There's no cafeteria on site. Mo nods, slides the packet back across the table, says, "Then it won't last." Because to Mo, design without human rhythm is a house made of sand. And Vegas, real Vegas, was always about rhythm. The hum of kitchens, the shuffle of cards, the conversation in loading docks, the sound of function, not flair. Many people still think Mo Dalitz faded out of relevance by the end of the decade. But so what do you think? Could a man who kept saving the city's soul in ways no one saw truly be fading? Or was he sinking deeper into its foundation, until no one could separate him from the structure itself? That winter, he visits the Desert Inn for what will be the last time. He doesn't announce it, doesn't bring anyone. He simply walks in, nods to the doorman, and takes his usual table in the back corner. The manager sees him, sends over his coffee order. Correct, as always. He sits for nearly an hour, watching, not judging, just absorbing. At one point, a server comes by. Young, clearly new. She smiles, pours him a refill, and says, "Are you someone important?" He smiles back. "No, but I helped build the walls you're standing in." She laughs, assuming it's a joke, but he doesn't correct her, because it's not her job to know. It's his job to remember. After that, Mo returns home and finishes the last page in his binder. It reads, "I didn't win the city. I helped it stop losing itself." Then he closes the cover and breathes, slow, steady, final. A few weeks later, Mo Dalitz passes away peacefully. No drama, no grand exit. Just a man quietly leaving a room he spent his life repairing. And when the news comes, the city dims its lights for a moment. Not in mourning, but in respect. Because sometimes Silence is the only fitting tribute to the man who kept things running without fanfare, who designed not monuments, but mechanisms. In the months that follow, small things begin to surface. A scholarship fund no one knew existed continues awarding grants. A neighborhood garden receives automatic renewal for its city permit, thanks to a note Mo filed 3 years earlier. A new city planner opens a box labeled Dalits Miscellaneous. Inside, building maps, water tables, parking estimates, handwritten notes on staff bathroom placement, and a final line scribbled in pencil. Make room for kindness. It costs nothing and fixes everything. Mo Dalits didn't need to be remembered with statues. He built something better, a city that kept going because someone, somewhere, had once loved it with precision. And now, as we leave the long, quiet corridors Mo Dalits once walked, those dimly lit hallways between back offices and boiler rooms, past clipboard checklists and whispered nods, it's okay to exhale. Let the neon fade from your mind's eye. Let the soft hum of the desert night settle in your chest, because Mo was never about spectacle. He was the quiet hum beneath the surface, the invisible rigging behind the glimmering stage. The city didn't move because he shouted. It moved because he understood where the pressure belonged. He wasn't a saint, but he was steady. Not perfect, but precise. And maybe that's enough, especially in a place built on illusion, to have one man who insisted that the lights stay on, that the plumbing never fail, that people clock out safely and walk home with their dignity intact. So tonight, if your mind wanders through streets still awake long past midnight, picture Mo in a quiet corner of the desert inn. A clipboard, a coffee, a folded note reminding someone to fix the exit light before the next shift. Because legacy doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it just makes sense. Now allow your breathing to slow. Unclench your thoughts. Let the story nestle into sleep, the way city lights soften once they're no longer meant to dazzle. Tomorrow the strip will blink back awake. But for now, you've earned the silence. And Mo, he's already made sure the night runs smooth.